Greetings, everyone, and welcome to GameFace, episode 411. It's a band, isn't it? Not a very good one.
I think that's 311.
Not 311, you're right. 411 is like not 911, but it's some other emergency call, I think. Information. You're getting your information today right here on GameFace episode 411. We're going to talk about awesome video games, I think, for the next couple hours. And as always, alongside me to do that is Matt Keil. What's up, Matt? How are you, man?
That was funnier because I was off camera correcting you.
Right. It is. I do realize, like in the intro, sometimes I'm talking to like nobody. It's kind of bizarre. How are you? Yeah, I think there's a lot of people right now that are like, we're not going to get into all that. We're just going to try to have fun today with the video game podcast because it's been a long week. I feel like half of our country needs an escape a little bit. So we're just going to talk about video games today. And we do have a lot of video games to discuss on today's show. We have like 3 game reviews and a hardware review. And I think you can probably figure out what the hardware is that we're going to talk about if you're looking at the screen right now. So we have an awesome show. Matt, I don't know if you realize or not yet, but I totally screwed up the rundown today. I did not include,
no headlines.
There's no headlines at all. So I had to like go rush back through and like write them all down by hand. People, I've been a disaster this week. A complete, unmitigated disaster. Absent-minded, just a disaster. So it's kind of good to get back here and kind of center myself a little bit in the realm of video games. And that's what we're going to do here on GameFace. Before we get going...
Video games forever.
Yes.
Actionbutton.com.
Yeah. Before we get going, just a reminder that we are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. We could really use some help. It is the holidays, and obviously everybody needs cash around this time of year. I need to go home. I need to buy gifts for all my nieces and nephews. So head to patreon.com/SIFTD. Give us a pledge. Maybe consider bumping up your pledge for a month if you want to help us out with Christmas and stuff like that. Or what a lot of people like to do is buy us a beer for the holidays. And people just go to our donation portal for that. Just go to donate.sifted.net. And you can input whatever you want. You give us $1, $5. A lot of people try to give us like $10 so we can get us a beer at the bar or whatever. And that's something a lot of people do over the holidays. But that is up if you want to help us that way. But the best thing you can do really is support us at patreon.com/SIFTD. And if you can't do that, you can still help us with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below for step-by-step instructions on how to do that. You got to hook your accounts up. When you do it the first time, it takes a couple minutes. And after that, you just have to resubscribe to our channel every month. And that literally takes like 3 seconds. So when you hear us on the show, if you listen to the audio version of GameFace all the time, we talk about Twitch Prime. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's what we're talking about. And people try to do it. And in fact, a bunch of people have already done it in our chat when we do the show. And that's the best way to do it. So we can thank you. I try to thank people for everything, donations. I know it's crazy, but I'm obsessed with it. I will work a 15-hour day and spend the extra hour after that to send emails thanking people for stuff. So we appreciate everybody. Every little amount makes a difference for us. Again, the holidays are coming up. We'd really appreciate it. Like if you've been watching the show all year on YouTube and haven't really been able to help us in any way, maybe just pledge for this month or something like that. Or again, you can go to donate.sifted.net and just maybe give us one lump sum for the year to say thank you for the shows that we've done. We usually do what? 60 shows a year, roughly? No, not that many. No, like 45.
52 weeks.
Yeah. There's usually like 45 or something like that we do.
About that.
Yeah. And you multiply that by 3.5 hours. That's a lot of hours of entertainment. So if you feel like we've provided something for you guys this year, we'd really appreciate it if you could help us out. Again, go to donate.sifted.net. And in that form, you can give us whatever you want.
Entertainment's a strong word. But
well, I think it all depends, Matt. It's like one episode we're entertaining, the next episode we're informative.
All right.
Sometimes we're both, but not always. But we do our best. We work really hard on this show. I think that comes through ultimately in the end product. At least I hope it does. Before we get going...
He does. I'm just here.
Oh, well, you provide other services for sure. Before we get going, the only housekeeping I really have is something I mentioned last week. Our contract with New York Secret Society is up, and so we're looking for a new sponsor. Again, we only allow 3 sponsor slots in GameFace at a time, and we only have 2 right now. So if you've been thinking about maybe doing something with us here on GameFace, now's a good time to do that.
LA Sneaker Society, it's your chance.
Yeah, that would be great, actually, LA Sneaker Society. So anyway,
East Coast rivalry and the sponsors.
What would be the same brand, basically. But anyway, we have one spot, and we haven't had a spot open for a really long time. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, send an email to sponsorships@sifted.net, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So I did rescue the housekeeping from my scrambled mind. You can't see it, but I have it right here. So let's just get straight into the headlines for GameFace 411. The first story, Matt, Nintendo is finally starting to throw us some bones on the Switch 2. It actually mentioned that the Switch 2 is a thing this week, after kind of ignoring it for the last 6 or 7 months. The first thing that it said was that it's not going to...
it mentioned it by saying we're not going to get it anytime soon. Basically, which they did that before, didn't they? Like with some other thing, like Nintendo was like, we're not announcing this.
Yeah.
But it was the first confirmation that it was real.
Right, yeah.
I can't remember what that was.
Remember. I know what you're talking about.
But they did that before.
Maybe the chat remembers.
Yeah, their announcement of the thing was to say that they weren't going to announce the thing.
Yeah. And that's what they kind of did.
But you just kind of announced the thing, didn't you?
Yeah. And Nintendo basically said that don't count on an announcement impending, that we're still planning on getting it out before the end of March next year, and that's our plan, and nothing's changed, despite what rumors you've heard or whatever online. They said that that's still their plan. But the bigger thing here, first of all, is that Nintendo Switch sales are tanking. Finally, after 8 years, they are tanking, but they are tanking. Hardware sales were down 31% in this most recent reporting. And on the tail of that, Nintendo decided to finally share a little bit of information about the Switch 2. And unfortunately, it was stuff that we all assumed to be the case all along, and that is that Switch 2 will be backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch, and it will also make use of Nintendo Switch Online. Big headline there, Matt. Big news. Nobody would
will
have
it
guessed
also
that.
have a Nintendo logo on it?
They didn't say that, but I would guess it will.
It will have controllers. There will be buttons.
I think so.
A screen.
Maybe. We don't know that yet, actually, but I think, again, that's pretty safe. Yeah, here's what I think, Matt. I think Nintendo made this announcement specifically to keep selling software, because its software sales are also starting to tank. And if it tells people that if you buy something now, you can still play it on your Switch 2 in 5 months or whatever, they're more likely to buy the software.
I mean, if you go by the theory that the Switch 2 is supposed to be out around now, this, the timing's about right there. Like the Switch sales are winding down, about the right time for a new thing. There you go.
Do you think these Switch sales are winding down organically, or do you think they're winding down because people...
Organically.
People aren't aware that
are not aware
they're about to release Switch 2, you don't
not
think?
Not in any way.
Yeah.
Outside of enthusiast circles.
Well, keep in mind that, that it is the enthusiast circles, though, that buy the software every month. They're the ones who...
Some, but there aren't millions of us.
Yeah.
And that's what makes those things hit. So, no, this is just saturation point. Everybody who wants a Switch has 3. Basically, and I think that's you hit the limit.
I mean, I have nieces and nephews where everyone in the family has a Switch, so that's definitely a thing.
The only people I would imagine some of the only people buying Switches now are just replacing broken ones or something.
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know why else you'd buy one right now.
Especially if you do know that Switch 2 is coming.
Yeah.
But I think that they at least wanted that messaging out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably that. I think you're right. That's probably the only reason they would say that. Is just oh, hey, if you buy something now, it's not going to be wasted later. It's sad that anyone has to say that because duh.
Or if you get a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, that's still going to work.
Just don't freak out.
Yeah, it feels
we know there's not really anything to buy.
But it is insane.
I have something that's supposed to be delivered today from Limited Run Games, and I don't know what it is.
You forgot what you bought?
I don't know what it is.
That's funny.
It might be that Jurassic Park collection.
Oh.
I mean, which I don't want anymore. I think I forgot to cancel that.
Oops. Well.
Might be a really good Name That Game prize coming up.
That's a good point, actually. So, yeah, I think this was Nintendo just trying to get out in front of it. It's starting to see its sales. What is more crazy? Is it crazy to you, Matt, that it's taken 8 years for the Switch software sales to start falling off?
It is pretty weird.
That's insane.
But I mean, the system from the beginning, even this promo video they put out, you clearly had the I guess this is not the
this is the OLED
original one. Yeah, this is the OLED, but
they're very similar though.
They're similar. Yeah, they're all very pretty people in unrealistic locations playing a game when they probably should be doing something else.
Yeah.
But
I love the one shot of the guy who comes home from work and he's so excited to play his OLED Switch, he doesn't even leave the foyer. Here he is. Look,
Yeah.
he comes home and he sits like in the mudroom playing his Switch.
well, the rest of the family's in the house.
No,
He
you're
does not
right. If he
see
goes
them
in any
yet.
further, he's going to be disrupted.
He's like, you gotta leave me. I'm
And he's
just
playing-
gonna. I'm just gonna sit on the fucking shoe bench.
And he's
like,
playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's freaking great.
Like that's like some like time enough at last Twilight Zone Burgess Meredith thing there. It's
Yeah.
like, that's like he's just harangued by everyone for playing Pokemon, and one day the world will end and he'll have been in the vault and he'll come out time enough at last and he'll drop the switch and it'll crack and be like, it's not fair. And there you go. There's your new Black Mirror version of time enough at last.
Yeah.
But it's like, even from the very first video, there was the implication that everyone would have their own. You know,
Yeah.
It's not since that time they wanted you to buy 4 separate GBA SPs to play Pac-Man Versus has Nintendo pushed so hard that everyone should have their own something.
Yeah.
So, I think the system was always kind of designed to be a personal item, you know. So no, it doesn't really surprise. I mean, it would surprise me if it sucked and everyone was still buying them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So like, it makes sense that like if you see someone, especially if you're using it as a handheld, which I don't, but like if you're using it as a handheld, like everyone's gonna want their own because you know, otherwise you're just not doing anything, you know.
If you had told me on launch day,
that system is, I want one sibling bait. Like,
Yeah.
of, like all timer, like top 5 all times. I want 1-2 sibling bait.
Yeah.
No question.
For sure. And I want my own color and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm surprised they didn't go a little harder on the colors.
Yeah.
In the end, like I was expecting. I think we both said that when it first came out. Like we were expecting like N64 levels of like color variation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it never really did.
No, there was some, but like not to the degree. Like I was thinking, like, oh, we'd get the clear ones and
all of it. Yeah.
and everything. You'd be able to buy a Joy-Con.
They reserved it for the
imaginable
light
color.
for some reason.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have to manufacture the dock, would be my guess. That
Yeah, that's
matched.
true.
Might have something to do with it. But I'll just say this.
That is a very Nintendo reason not to do that.
It is. Yeah.
It's like because it's like everyone would have been fine if the docks were all just black,
Right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
like, great charcoal.
But
or whatever
Nintendo,
they are.
no, you
But
can't do
not
that.
Nintendo.
I'll say this. When it launched back in 2017 on launch day, if someone had walked in while we were recording GameFace and said, hey, guys, this thing is going to be the Nintendo console that you're playing until 2025, I would have not believed it. Because the other thing is, too, is that Nintendo has not been one that leaves a system on the market for 8 years. It has kind of stuck to the 5-year thing because typically the last couple of years of Nintendo consoles after the first 3 years has been a disaster. But with Switch, because they unified their development into one channel, just supplying to one platform, it's been great from beginning to end. And so you haven't seen that fall off of software like you normally see at year 3 or 4 with Nintendo consoles. And it's just powered right on through. I mean, it's probably going to end up being Nintendo's most successful platform ever when it's all said and done. It's at 146 million sold right now. It could probably get to 200 eventually if they start chopping the price on the thing. And with it being
I don't
backwards,
think they ever will, though.
with it being backwards compatible, though, they might.
Yeah, that, and also like the components for this are not going to get any cheaper to make.
Yeah, because they're the only ones buying them at this point.
Yeah.
Because the tech is so
Yeah,
old.
the tech is ancient. Like if it was going to get cheaper, it would be cheaper.
Yeah.
It's just like, it costs a certain amount to make a screen like that.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Imagine being the chip supplier for the Switch. I mean, you hit a gold mine. This old technology.
All your stuff on it is like on like an old Tandy.
Yeah,
You're just like we can't update the system or we won't be able to make Switch components anymore.
I mean, you're making hand over fist over on tech that you made like 10 years ago.
Like all the parts orders are on paper.
Yeah. Handwritten.
Yeah. Like, Johnny, run this down to department. They're putting like the things in the tubes at the thunk, like up those like pneumatics
at the bank.
We got another order in from Nintendo. We got to deliver, boys. Come on.
When I was a kid, I always thought that one day we would have like transportation that worked like the bank things where they'd shoot through the tube. I was like, someday we're going to be riding in those things. That never happened, I don't think.
No, that would have been bad.
I don't think it would have been too
Turns
safe.
out you put something in a tiny little tube and something goes wrong,
You're in trouble.
no one can help you.
Yep. So anyway, this is just like uncharted territory here, what we're dealing with the Switch and Nintendo. It's never been in this position. We've never been in this position with Nintendo before. Like,
I mean, the closest would probably be the NES to Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
A big, huge hit that defined a lot of stuff and had been on the market for, I mean, at that point, 6 years. I guess 5 years. No, I guess 5 years in Japan, because it was 1990 in Japan and 85 in Japan for the Famicom. So yeah, I got like 5 years, and then 5 years from Super Nintendo US launch to N64, and then 5 years from N64 to GameCube. Like, yeah, they've really known it. And even same for Wii U.
Yep.
Like, yeah, 5 years.
This is uncharted territory, but it's obviously it's worked out very well.
But
for
it's
Nintendo.
not uncharted territory for their handhelds.
True. Yeah, their handhelds have lived longer typically. That's a good point. Yep. And this is a hybrid, so maybe we should have expected it a little bit more.
But I mean, and also like it seems to me like its success is mostly as a handheld.
Yeah.
Like most people seem to use it as a handheld.
Yeah, I think so too. Particularly the younger audience, for sure.
Yeah, and nobody seems. I mean, people complain about the performance and the underpowered hardware, but it doesn't stop anybody from buying the game. So who cares?
Yeah. Yep. It has worked out. Nintendo, genius move with the Switch. There's no denying it. Now, the big question is, can it keep it going?
It is funny though. Like when you really step back and look at it, it feels like they couldn't have gotten to this without the Wii U.
No way.
Like it feels like
to a tablet. Yeah,
it feels like to get to the Switch, you had to make the mistake of the Wii U coming off of the Wii.
And talk about some guts to have the Wii U, which was an unmitigated disaster, total failure.
Because what else could have forced them to cannibalize their handheld idea?
No, I hear you.
The same way.
But they had to look at this platform that was a miserable failure and say, you know what? We're going to double down on that.
Yeah, what do we save from this? Well, because part of it's crazy. It's not that the gamepad was a bad idea. It was just a bad
implementation
of the idea.
Yeah.
Like it just it was cheap and broke, and it was
heavy,
and it didn't. The batteries didn't last long enough, and it was like weird.
The touchscreen sucked.
It was hard to. It was awkward to control. Like you couldn't, and you had to hold it, and the had this giant thing on your lap.
It made you hold it up to play a lot of games. Like, who wants to do that?
And the Switch is like all the dumb shit about the gamepad stripped away into just like a form factor.
Yeah,
and it's just like I feel like you had to go through the desert to get to the oasis on that one.
Yep.
So it's like it's a really good example of learning from your failure.
Yeah.
Which I think...
And not completely bailing on some of the
ideas. Which I think Nintendo may be the only hardware manufacturer in the game industry that does that regularly.
Yeah. I think most companies would have looked at the Wii U and said, we are doing the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
We're not going to use anything from that idea because it's the worst thing we've ever created. Nintendo was smart enough to see that there was something about it still. Mm-hmm. Just... That's what Nintendo does.
It's like that's what makes them a little more interesting. Is like the GameCube didn't do what the N64, the Super Nintendo did. Okay, we're gonna switch over and we're gonna do something totally different. And the Wii is gonna blow up. It's gonna be big. Now we're gonna move on to this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, meanwhile, and you have to kind of re-explain what they're thinking for each of these systems as they move on, especially once you get past the GameCube. Mm-hmm. And even with the GameCube, you're like, why is it a lunchbox? Why does it have a handle? Why are the discs so small? Like, what do you do? There's four things, but none of the buttons make any sense. If you're like, oh no, I guess it does when you hold it. But it's like,
or when you play their
meanwhile,
game.
You've just got, it's a little more powerful.
Yeah.
I like that.
We're done.
Everyone else is not really. They're just
playing that game,
putting a bigger chip in there and calling it a day.
That's why I get more excited for Nintendo hardware unveils than any other.
That's also why I'm less
holder.
Excited, because if they screw it up, it's going to be something that I really, really don't want. But
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. If you have been like, oh, I'm going to buy a Switch 2, I don't have a Switch, so I'm not going to buy any software. Now you can buy software and not freak out about it. I think it's smart ultimately, but also pretty transparent what's going on there.
Yeah.
Actually, before we move on to our next headline, I want to check in with you guys at chat. Again, I'm a little discombobulated today. I've been this way since last Tuesday. I'm probably going to be this way for a little bit longer. I'm not on my game. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I am a little predisposed with other things in my mind. Let's go thank the people who gave us Twitch Prime. Let's see here. How far do I need to go? Talimper, thank you. Corey Film, thank you. Who else we got in here? Fruit Eater, thank you for Twitch Prime. Sleeping Turtle 3, thank you for Twitch Prime. Caustic Kip, I think is how you say that. Thank you. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. That's awesome. Fire Native, thank you. Vincent says, you have to be more entertaining over the next couple of weeks as we're about to run out of games for 2024. I don't think so, though.
You got Stalker.
I mean, the rest of this month is good, and then the early part of December is okay, and then we're gone for the holidays. I think we'll be all right.
There's something I was looking forward to in December. Oh no,
Marvel Rivals is in December.
Not looking forward to that. Looking forward to the court cases though.
Next to Twa, thank you for Twitch Prime or subscribing. I'm sorry. Tier 1.
Nah, no. I'm actually looking forward to the Power Rangers beat 'em up.
Oh.
In December, like
a lot of people
looks
are
really good.
Like I think that was one of our sneakers of the week, right? Yeah.
I don't care about Power Rangers at all. I was just a little too old when that came out.
Me too. Yeah.
To the point that I very specifically remember watching the first episode of Power Rangers and being like, I should like this.
I tried.
But I don't.
I tried. Yeah, it was too corny. I couldn't do it.
I knew that if I was like 2 years younger, I would have thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen.
I thought it was like Baywatch for kids.
That is actually a pretty... The American shot stuff did have a weird Baywatch feel to it. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
Mr. Jack 535, thank you, brother. Or sister. Sometimes you can't tell from people's usernames. And do we have any others here? Retro Modern Gamer says, will they beat the PS2 sales? PS2 sold 155 to 160. I think the Switch will. I think it will take... probably. It will take a while.
They're not going to stop making it. Immediately, so I think it's got a tail on it for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think you get that thing where when the Switch 2 comes out, it's going to be, people are going to want the Switch 2, but maybe somebody doesn't want to pay for the Switch 2, especially if those tariffs go into effect. Enjoy your $600 Switch 2, everybody.
Or your $1,300 PlayStation 5 Pro.
100%.
Yeah.
But
Contano, thank you.
At that point, buying a Switch for because it can still play a lot of the same stuff. So like that you might get a little tailwind off the Switch 2 launch, actually.
Yeah. Aussie Brit 2000, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Contano, thank you. Khalib Twilai says, I finally played Indica in a single evening on Saturday. Speaking of sneakers, that was one of my sneakers of the week. Gameplay is like a Dostoevsky novel. I'm not familiar with Dostoevsky. Are you?
Where does it say that?
Khalib Twilai. He goes at SIFTD Games there. See him? I finally played Indica.
Yeah. What? You know Dostoevsky?
I do not. What did he write?
What was the thing? I was in the fucking play. Brothers Karamazov.
I've never heard of it.
You would. Well, I don't think you'd like it because it's long, but basically it's about atheism versus religion.
Okay.
I almost played the atheist brother in that in a stage play production in my senior year of college, but then I found out the director had not read the book, and so I said no.
Wow. I mean, that I could see why.
Yeah. So I turned down a lead because of that, and then they cast somebody else who he was fine. He went on to be in MTV's Undressed.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a crazy story. Luna just lost it.
He's not the guy. My claim to fame on stage acting in college was my freshman year. I was in a play with Mahershala Ali.
Oh wow!
Who went to our? He was 2 years older than me, and he was on the basketball team, and he decided he wanted to try acting, and so the director cast him as a military policeman, and I was an AWOL soldier who was trying to blow up the Pope. When he was visiting New York, and so we had a big fight scene. It was me versus Mahershala Ali, and he was kind enough to when we choreographed it. He was kind enough to make it look like I had a shot against him. It was
that's great.
The largest human being I had ever seen up close.
Well, that's California. So here you could totally see a jock being in acting and drama. Mm-hmm. East Coast. That don't happen, man.
Well,
there's a very clear line between the jocks and the drama people.
Well, his whole thing was, there was I guess there was a line there, but he wanted to do it because his father was an actor, and he wanted to
Here it's totally acceptable. Yeah. I mean, because we're in LA, we're in California.
And everybody encouraged it, and he still was in all the sports stuff. And by his senior, the following year, he was organizing productions of his own, and he was putting on a play called Spunk on campus, and the campus decided to ban it and cancel it because it was too racially charged. Mm-hmm. It was a protest play. So instead, he just took it and found a theater in Walnut Creek that would book it, and they performed it off campus.
That's
instead.
Incredible. So that's a great story.
He
made it happen.
Everyone knew that was his passion as soon as he found it. So,
that's great.
I didn't know him very well, but it was only that one thing. But that's my closest brush to Oscar winners.
That's awesome. Okay, next up in our headlines, we've been talking about how Nintendo has been trying to sue Pocket Pair over Palworld for probably the last couple episodes of GameFace. There's always a new tidbit that comes out every week because we've been trying to figure out why exactly Nintendo is going to sue Palworld, because it does look very much like Pokemon, and that part of it we get. But also, there's been a lot of other games that look a whole lot like Pokemon that Nintendo hasn't sued. Like,
it's also hard because it doesn't really play anything like it.
Yeah.
Like the trappings are the same. The ball. I think most of the speculation was they're going to go after the balls, which is a good strategy in any fight, really.
That's exactly what happened. So we finally got information on exactly what Nintendo is suing Pocket Pair for. And as it turns out, it's not because the creatures look like Pokemon or the music sounds like Pokemon music. Concept. It's literally throwing the Pokeball. The action of throwing the Pokeball.
Yeah, because also, the Pokeball is one of the symbols of Pokemon.
So is.
It's a branding logo. That's the thing is, like, I figured that was where they'd probably go, because you can't copyright gameplay mechanics. Like, that's not a thing you can really do, but you can't. But because the Pokeball is so closely associated with Pokemon, like to the point that if you just put a circle with the red and the white, people will know that's
what
Pokemon.
It is, yeah.
You can claim brand harm by them using like that. That is not a bad angle.
Still seems a little flimsy to me.
It's not great, but it's probably the best they got.
Yeah.
Because the game doesn't really play like a Pokemon game very much outside of the basic concept, which is not something you can go
fight monsters till they're weak.
If you could do that, like everyone who has mining and crafting and survival elements could sue them for that too.
Right. Yeah.
You can't do that. So like, yeah, going after the ball is. Again, all they need to do is change everything to a D20. It's like, okay, now you throw rectangles at them. Okay,
Well, it's crazy that Nintendo has managed to patent throwing a Pokeball. Because the patents, there's 3 patents at Nintendo, and they're all about literally the physical action of throwing the ball. Like, here's the other thing. They're only suing them for $66,000 over this. What the hell? Like, why even bother? That's not even going to pay for the lawyers that Nintendo has to hire for this.
Well, they would if they win, it would pay for it, because the Palworld
they have to pay for the lawyers' fees.
Would be they'd be on the hook for damages.
But you're going to pay like $65,000. That's not even a salary for one of your mid-range managers.
It's to establish a precedent.
You're right.
That's all it is.
Yeah, they want to scare off other people from doing it.
And honestly, all that they need to do is just change it so instead of throwing the ball, you hold it up.
Yeah.
It sucks the thing. Make it a ghost trap instead of a Pokeball, and there you go.
It's crazy to me that Nintendo is pursuing this case.
It really feels like they just felt like they had to do something.
Yeah, because people like us were like, is Nintendo going to sue? Is Nintendo going to sue?
Yeah, I don't think they can, but there is something to this where like I think they got a little too close here.
Yeah.
And probably part of it is how, much everything looks like Pokemon. Everything, it's easy to confuse this if you're not paying attention. But yeah, they're going to do some kind of precedent there. And it makes me wonder if, like, maybe the next time they do a Legends kind of thing, it's going to take a lot of inspiration from this, and they're like, try it.
Right.
We're going to steal a bunch of shit from
it could be.
Because, look, like, that is a valid way to go.
Right there, perfect. Stuff. We're showing it right now. What they're getting sued for.
Stuff, like, it actually reminds me of the Transformers, like, third-party world, where, like, there's all these companies, fan-based companies that make unofficial Transformers that are stealing their IP, and they're making Optimus Primes and Megatrons and shit, and Hasbro doesn't do anything to them, but they're making these big masterpiece things, and they're like that Superion I had on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, they never really seem to get in like cease and desist or legal trouble with it, but like 2 years later you'll see official Hasbro Transformers come out that use the same engineering.
Interesting.
As the like adapted forms of the engineering that are pioneered by the third. So Hasbro's looking at all this stuff and being like, you just keep prototyping for us, and we'll keep stealing your ideas and using them in our official product. And it's like this weird symbiotic relationship that no one wants to talk about. And I'm like, if Nintendo just starts looking at these clones and stealing what works and leaving what doesn't on the table, well, not Nintendo, but Pokemon Company, I guess. That's not a terrible. It has worked out pretty well in other situations.
Somebody asked a great question for Ask Shane Anything a couple weeks ago about this, and they were like, why has Nintendo gone after Palworld, but it didn't go after Digimon?
I think Digimon actually was either simultaneous or predated Pokemon
in
some ways. Yeah,
I know it's very close.
There was something about Digimon where like it was just the timing was such that it couldn't have been.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened to be the same sort of, basing like a collect-a-thon game on bug catching apparently was just such a big hobby in Japan at the time of that generation that like it was not necessarily anyone ripping anyone off. It was just something that everybody came up with. It's like how Deep Impact didn't rip off Armageddon.
Yeah.
It just, that happens sometimes.
Yeah. My guess, this case may just be settled out of court. Like, why even go to court for this if it's only $66? That is literally nothing to Pocket Pair. It has sold like 30 million copies of this game. Like, why wouldn't you just settle out of court? Because you want to make up another one. You want to make Palworld 2. Mm-hmm. But to your point, Matt, like, just change how you capture the monsters. That's all you got to do. I mean, let's be honest. It is a little skeevy. Like, the ball even does the same thing where you can see the creature inside, like, fighting to get out of it, and it shakes a little bit. Like, I think you're right. I think this flew a little too close to the sun. But you could very easily just change that, release Palworld 2, and Nintendo will leave you alone. Yeah, just settle out of court.
Just throw a thing on the ground and stomp on it, open it.
Seriously.
And then the Ghostbusters.
Then Ghostbusters will see it. Faradol says Digimon was 97 and Pokemon was 96. I did think it was first, but it was very close. Yeah. And then what was the other one that I think Level 5 made? What's the other Pokemon clone? I hate that I can't remember it.
What happened to that one that like was, I think it was Korean, and it was like was set more in cities, and like it had a lot of mini games. You remember? It looked really good at the time. It was. I brought it up a couple times, and I never came
Yokai
out.
Watch, Andy T. Monahan.
Yokai Watch.
Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah.
That was a big hit for a while. And just kind of disappeared.
Well, it's still a big hit in Japan. It just never really caught on here as much.
Dokev V or Dokev, yeah.
Is that it?
Ashes and out, yeah.
Dokev or Dokev V.
Dokev V, Dokev 5, I don't know what it was. No, I don't know what happened to that game.
Monster Rancher, Drifter J reminds us of.
Vincent says it got delayed a bunch and they're releasing Crimson Desert first. Okay.
So, look, Palworld's not the only guilty party here, but for some reason Nintendo really zeroed in on it.
It does feel like getting near the Pokeball is the danger zone.
Yeah.
Because it's the logo.
Yeah, it kind of is. You're right. The Pokeball is the logo for Pokemon.
Yeah, like, stay away from the Pokeball and Pikachu.
Yeah,
that's
really okay.
That's really it.
Yeah, you're right. Because you're right. I will say this, there is not a Pokemon in this game that looks a whole lot like Pikachu.
No, there isn't.
A lot of others are very close, but not that
one.
one.
Nintendo not going to go to the mat for the fucking sheep. The
Pokemon that you get at the beginning of a game and use it twice and never use it again. Yeah.
And a lot of these, I mean, those look like Pidgeys or whatever.
I mean,
some of them are like, but also a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, I mean, that looks like an Electabuzz meets Pikachu with a gun. That looks a lot like Lucario.
Yeah, I mean, almost all of them.
But it's all just like slightly distinct enough. It's just not quite enough to
just that
get you there.
Hair off. Yep. So anyway,
it's that annoying thing where you're just like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's just nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, yeah. So as it turns out, it looks like everything's going to work out, and no, it doesn't look like Pocket Pair is going to get dinged all that bad. Again, I think they'll just settle out of court. Maybe they sign some kind of agreement where Pocket Pair is like, okay, we'll ditch the Pokeball animation. We'll find some other way to capture the monsters. Nintendo's happy. Pocket Pair's happy. Everyone goes on their way. We're happy because now we have a good alternative to Pokemon.
What they should do is hire them.
You're right. To make Pokemon games. They should have them working on like the Legends series. It makes too much sense. And that I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. If they announce on the same day, we have settled the case, and
maybe that's why the amount's so low.
It could be. Maybe they're already working on it.
Like this is like some kind of minimum thing to bring the suit, and if we can settle this, maybe we'll fucking talk.
Yeah, we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised.
If I were Nintendo, and I mean that's happened too. Like a couple of people that do design stuff for those third-party things have been hired for real.
Well, remember the guy?
Same thing with they hired that guy who did that Metroid remake, didn't they?
And then the Sonic Mania guy.
Yeah, Sonic Mania guy.
So there's examples of
that. There's worse
sure.
you can do than to hire some of these people that really pull off something cool with your concept
and love your IP. I mean, because it's almost everything in life comes down to passion. If you're passionate about something, you're going to be much better at it. And if you can find somebody who's passionate about something that you've created and they're excellent creators, you'd be an idiot not to hire them. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'd rather play Palworld 2 than Pokemon Legends Z to A or whatever the hell it is.
You can remove the heavy weaponry
Right.
I would say. But
the axes and the guns.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be quite so violent.
Or you can just make the guns like Nerf guns or that shoot like
yeah,
goo or
stun
something.
weapons or like little laser pistols that
Right.
like just like knock them out or whatever.
Right.
You know, it doesn't need to be to the death all the time. Like,
Yeah.
But I also like the idea of involving the people. You know, like the fact that the fact that the Palworld trainers don't just stand by and do nothing.
Right.
Is more interesting to me. And in that format of gameplay, like I don't need a side. You know, the trainers are fist fighting during the turn-based Pokemon game.
Right.
Like I'm not interested in that. But like in a game like this, you want to be doing something.
Yeah. I also believe Pocket Pair is Japanese. I think they're a Japanese developer, if I remember correctly. Which
I don't know.
Probably would make it more palatable to Nintendo to acquire them, make it easier financially as well. So we'll see.
Certainly saves on translators.
Yeah. But bottom line is it turns out this whole suit with Palworld and Pokemon ended up kind of being nothing when the rubber hit the road. Next up, a story that I think maybe only Matt and I will truly care about. And that is that there is a new Virtua Fighter game on the way, Matt. Mm-hmm. It has been, can you believe this, Matt? It has been 17 years.
Yeah, I can believe
since
that.
Virtua Fighter 5. It came out in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Why did this series go away?
Of updates because it wasn't all that popular outside of Japan.
I mean, in Japan, it was everything.
Oh, Japan, it was bigger than Tekken for a while.
It's bigger than anything. Like when we were going to Japan like every year, and sometimes a couple times a year for me. You go to the arcades there, that's all it was.
Like a third of the arcade was Virtua Fighter machines.
And I thought I was good at it, and I would sit down, and I would stand right back up in like 10 seconds because they would just whoop
that was my goal.
my ass.
After getting destroyed in 2003, when I went back in 2005, that was my whole goal. My whole goal of this trip is to beat a Japanese Virtua Fighter player. And I did.
You
several
did?
times. I went into training for 2 months on the game,
Awesome.
and I went in and I beat a guy who was Wolf, and I beat a guy who was Sarah, and I beat a guy who was Lao.
I can tell it meant a lot to you because you remember who you fought.
I remember every fucking move in every one of those matches.
Now you're probably watching.
And at one point, I beat the one guy, and the guy, because he saw me come and sit down, because it's the machines where like they're
across
back to
from
back,
each
and
other.
you sit like on opposite sides from each other.
Yeah.
And he saw me come in and sit down, and after I beat him 2 rounds, he leaned around and like looked around the machine like, what the hell, like he couldn't believe some gaijin had just like
because it doesn't
held
happen.
his own. No, I'm sure it doesn't happen.
Like hardly ever.
Not a lot of Americans. I mean, Virtua Fighter was one of my earliest disappointments in the game industry, where they did it was a launch party for one of, I must have been 4. That was 2001.
Yeah,
so.
that sounds about right.
And I went. It was in San Francisco, and I went, and they had the machine there, and they had like everything. And everyone who went, all the press people just sat around drinking free drinks, and nobody was playing the game. And I thought finally I was going to be able to play Virtua Fighter against some real people who knew how to play video games.
Right.
And I played like 3 games and destroyed everyone because no one knew how to block. And I'm like, what the fuck is it? And no one would play with me anymore after that. And so it was just me and the Sega guys playing. Like, they came over, and these Japanese developer guys who came over and played with me.
Yeah.
And killed me a lot. But they were so pleased to find someone who actually A, knew how to play the game, and B, cared to play a game at their. I didn't realize how many of those events no one touched the game.
Yeah,
those
it
preview
happened
events
a lot.
just nodding.
Yeah.
Because also you weren't interested. It's like a lot of them were like
the demo's 15 minutes.
Demo's 15
you
minutes.
play it twice and you're done. Yeah.
Or else like I asked some of the guys there because I'm like, why aren't you guys playing? And he's like, I'm about to have to like play that whole game for my job
review
next week.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to waste my time tonight on my time off? Technically, this is my time off.
Yeah.
Why am I going to do that right now? And I'm like, it's fair.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was, no one played Batman Dark Tomorrow at the Dark Tomorrow event because they knew it sucked.
Right.
Like, they're like, we don't need to do that. We're not going to. He's like, because I came back and they're like, after playing it, and as I was playing it, all the developers and all the PR people kept asking me what I thought, and I came back and it might have been Greg Stewart who said, you see now why we don't do that? Because otherwise they're going to ask you what you think, and I don't want to have to tell them that the game sucks. And I'm like, he's like, I save that for the review. And I'm just like, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Well, anyway, you're probably watching this B-roll, and you're like, man, like, this looks like a boring fighting game. Because it's very...
But it's not.
It's not, if you play it. Like, this is the last fighting franchise I was serious about getting good at. Since then, I play them for a couple weeks, I move on. Virtua Fighter stuck with me, and I tried to get good at it. And I think a little bit of it had to do with the arcade
I go back to
scene in
Virtua
Japan.
Fighter 5 pretty often. I mean, they put that one, the online capable version on PS5 recently.
Just came out recently. Yeah.
And it's still great.
Yeah.
Still works.
Yeah.
And again, the AI in the Virtua Fighter games has been the best in fighting games for many, many, many
I mean,
years.
I struggle to beat the ladder single player sometimes. Towards the last couple of fights get hard.
Oh, that's because they get cheap. But I think the whatever you call it, the mode where you go up in the belt rankings, Kumite, like that mode, like, because that AI learns how you fight, and it kind of counters you, and it does a really good job of feeling like playing against an actual player who makes mistakes. Once you get you got to play about, I would say, about 2 hours to get to that point. But after a while, you're like, okay, this is like,
it starts to notice if you're spamming.
It feels competitive, but it doesn't feel like it's cheating.
Yeah.
And that's a rare thing in a fighting game AI. So I'm a big, these are all of my favorite games. When I got the Dreamcast and Virtua Fighter 3 TV, a bunch of my friends learned how to play Virtua Fighter, so I would have someone to play with. And my friend Chris got real good with Shun-Di, the drunken kung fu guy. And
he's hard to time.
He is, but that was the problem. Was Chris really, for whatever reason, his timing clicked with Chris, and you just could not get in a rhythm against him. He beat me many. Chris probably has the highest win percentage against me of any individual person. In any Virtua Fighter game.
Some of these characters in this are like CQC, where you're close quarters, and you're not doing big swings or kicks.
Like this guy,
you're literally just up close, just doing very subtle blocks. There's no other fighting franchise like Virtua Fighter. There just isn't. It's not about bombastic over the top. It really is all about timing and player skill. And that is what has really resonated with me with this franchise for years. And it's just crazy to me. It's been 17 years since we had another one. So finally it's on the way. I'm hoping people will give it a chance when it comes out.
Well, wait and see.
Yeah. About what you mean?
Whether it's any good.
Oh, you mean it might suck?
Yeah.
Because we don't know if is AM2. Does it even exist?
None of those people are there anymore.
Yeah, they're not even there anymore.
These aren't the same people that made these games,
right?
So, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold my breath. I'll put it to you that way, and hope that it all works out in the end. But for me, this is very exciting. A new Virtua Fighter on the way. I would say, Matt, probably my second favorite fighting franchise behind Street Fighter.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
For me personally, anyway.
Yeah.
I just like the rhythm of it.
I would put this above Street Fighter. This is my favorite fighting game ever.
I think it's the most intricate fighting mechanics in a fighting franchise for sure. But I like the little bit of the over-top bombastic nature of Street Fighter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Street Fighter, but this is definitely my favorite series.
Yeah,
fighting wise.
So maybe
even as a giant 2D fighting person,
yeah,
this is the best it gets.
Well, hopefully it comes out and it's decent, and you folks will give it a chance. And hopefully Matt and I like it, and we can convince you guys to give it a chance. Because if you've liked fighting games, but you've kind of fallen off with them over the last 10 years or so, this might be a franchise that can spark that interest again.
I think it has trouble where there's not a single fireball.
No, there's no magic. It's all real. It's realistic.
Well, it's not super real. I mean, there's people doing flips 10 feet in the air, but
but people can do flips.
But not from a standing jump like that. And no one can throw someone.
There's
10 feet
a little bit of embellishment, but it is the most realistic.
There's a little bit of
Tekken
game. Juggling in it, but it's for the most part, everyone has an actual martial art they're using.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty close most of the time.
Yeah.
It's one of the only fighting games other than Tekken to have a ground game and to have kind of a grappling game to it. It makes the what you call it, the Aikido stuff work pretty well. The wrestling stuff works pretty well.
Was it Karate Kid where he has that almost like a telephone pole with all the sticks coming out of it? He does all this crazy stuff with it.
I mean, Van Damme did that in a couple of his things.
This game is kind of like that.
That was in Karate Kid 3.
Okay. I've seen it in some movie or TV show, but this game reminds me of that. It's just very up close and very intricate and blocking and like that. It just really resonates with me. So anyway, there you go. Another Virtua Fighter is on the way. And because every video game has to become a TV show or a film, we've learned this week that now Mass Effect is next in line. Matt, are you excited about this, or are you terrified that they're going to ruin Mass Effect when Amazon gets its mitts on it?
I could not possibly care less.
Really?
No.
This is your favorite video game franchise.
Yeah, video game franchise. I don't give a shit what they make out of it.
But after what they did with Fallout, you aren't at least a little bit excited, maybe?
No.
Really?
It's not going to be... if they do the Shepard story, it's not going to be better than what the games did. And if they don't do the Shepard story... I probably don't care.
Really? How come?
Because
wouldn't this be like a dream project for you?
No.
Like, is someone who works in film to be able to work on a Mass Effect project?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Because it's perfect as it is. It doesn't need to be anything else. Not everything needs to be translated into every other form of media.
I agree with that 1,000,000%. I definitely agree with that. Like, this is insane. Last week we were talking about the Oregon Trail. Now, to me, Mass Effect makes more sense.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of what you'd have to pitch in a boardroom, absolutely. I would rather pitch Mass Effect than Oregon Trail, believe you me. But no, do I think for 1 second this is going to be done justice in the same level? Probably not. I mean, like, they did Fallout very well, yeah, but, like, Fallout is
it's not the same team.
Fallout, it's not the same team. Like, yeah, if Jonah Nolan was on this, yeah, I'd be more interested.
Yeah.
But Fallout is also just more of a setting to tell stories in. Mm-hmm. Mass Effect is the story of Shepard.
Very specific characters. Yeah.
Like, yes, there's Andromeda. Yes, there's spin-off stuff. No one gives a shit. Mass Effect is the story of a singular character named Commander Shepard in a space opera setting, fighting to stop the end of everything. And can you make that into a show? Probably. Is it going to be a show that does justice to these 3 games that take you like 200 hours to finish?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Of course not.
Don't you have at least like morbid curiosity though to see what they do with it?
Sorta.
Like you're gonna watch it, right? Did you watch Fallout?
About half of it.
Really? You only watched half of Fallout?
It's good. But it's just like I'd rather do other things with my time.
Wow, I really love Fallout. couldn't wait to watch each episode.
I thought it was very good. But again, to sit down and watch a TV series is hard for me. I just don't care. And very, 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 very rarely is a TV series worth its whole runtime.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a movie fan, because it's like I give you 2 to 2.5 hours.
Keep it simple,
and you tell me a whole fucking
yeah.
story, as opposed to sitting there for 13 hours and I don't even know if you fucking stuck the landing properly. I feel like I've wasted much less of my life when I watch a movie.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to adapt Mass Effect into movies either, because that's way too little time to cover what they need to cover. The other thing, of course, is Amazon you can trust mostly to finish things out, but it's also like, this thing's going to need like 6 seasons.
Yeah.
We're going to be 70 by the time they finish this. You kidding?
Would you be more or less likely to watch it if it was the story of Shepard?
Equal.
So it doesn't matter to you whether it's Shepard or some other
It's
side
not
story?
going to be my Shepard.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. It's definitely not going to be Fem Shep.
Yeah.
It's going to be some dude playing Shepard. Who I don't recognize male Shep as Shepard.
Oh, that's the thing. Shepard's different for everybody.
Yeah,
like that's why people love Mass Effect.
And if you tell some others, I'm gonna be curious to see what the makeup looks like for all the different aliens and what who they get to cast the squad mates if they are indeed doing the Shepard thing. Like who's gonna be Liara, who's gonna be Garrus, what poor man is gonna be stuck in the Garrus costume the whole time. Or maybe it'll just be a CG character. I mean, I hope they don't. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
With a TV. I mean, if you don't have a Rings of Power budget, I don't think you can do that.
It is Amazon. After the hit the Fallout is, maybe it is more apt to put some money into it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, even then, Fallout's using a lot of correctly using a lot of makeup. But I just don't know. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, it's Mass Effect is there. Mass Effect is fine. It's sort of like, oh, are you excited or you are really anxious about the new Ghostbusters sequel? No, because Ghostbusters is the first movie in the cartoon to me. You can do whatever the hell you want. It doesn't bother me. Like, Frozen Empire was meh, and that's fine. Like, what? Okay. Like, you can't... It's like the people whining about Rings of Power, which I don't think is actually all that good.
I don't either.
I
fell off halfway through the first season, and now the second season's there, and I'm like, I have to go back and finish off the first. I don't really want to.
The second season's better.
Is it?
I've only seen the first 4 episodes because I watch it at my friend Brian's, who has a crazy AV system, Dolby Atmos and everything, so it's way better to see it in that setting. But I saw the first season and it was fine. There's a lot of, I think the Hobbit stuff was boring as hell. Like the Harfoot stuff rather was boring as hell. It stopped everything dead. I
found the first season to become boring.
I like Galadriel. I mean, if you want to make a show that's just Elrond and Durin having their sitcom bromance in the Dwarf City, I'll watch that. Like, that's the best part. But like, it's just, I don't know. And the second season is better so far, but it's like I'm waiting to see the second half at Brian's so I can see it properly. But he did a rewatch of season 1, and he did 4 episodes one day and 4 episodes the following weekend. And I went because I wanted to have some social interaction with some people.
Yeah.
I was feeling like that, so I went and I watched the first 2. We had a barbecue, grilled up some stuff, and I said, "Okay, I'm going home." They're like, "You're not going to save it?" I'm like, "No, I don't need to do that." Watching the first 2 episodes have once again confirmed for me I don't need to see the rest of this season again, and that was the end of that.
Pharaoh Doll brings up a good point. That's the problem with making video games with choices into shows. What story do you follow? What characters do you focus on? You can't please everyone. Yeah.
Especially this one.
Yeah.
And like Fallout has the advantage that they can just do their own story. Like at no point are you watching Fallout and saying like, well, my Vault Dweller did this, because this is not the story of any of the games.
Yeah.
You can't really do that with Mass Effect.
Yeah. Which makes me think that maybe the better idea is to do some other kind of side story.
But if you do that, it's not Mass Effect.
And then people don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
What I was saying about Rings of Power is like people act like it's the end of the world and it's the end of, oh my god, it's disrespectful to Tolkien and da-da-da-da. Who fucking gives a shit?
Yeah.
The books are there.
They're not going away.
Just like when you hated that the movies changed things.
Right.
You just go, just like I hate the Hobbit movies. Like I can just go read the Hobbit anytime. Like none of that goes away. None of the original shit goes away. If you,
at least we hope not.
If you have the dog shit,
if
you have the dog shit taste to think The Last Jedi is a bad movie, the original trilogy is still there, sort of, in a way, if you can put up with the special edition changes.
Yeah.
Maybe Star Wars is a bad example there. Because
I hear what you're saying.
Everyone whines about the Disney stuff, but Lucas fucked with those movies enough already before he sold it anyway.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, yeah, crazy. So there's no word yet on when this is coming out. My guess is probably 2026, first season.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Or maybe later even.
We'll see when they shoot.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty... They just sort of formed the team.
Yeah.
So it could be later than that. But
yeah.
2 years seems about right.
To get that first season out, see how it does.
I mean, especially because the first season's going to be, what, like 8 episodes?
If we're lucky.
That's the problem, is like this shit takes so long.
It does.
It's ridiculous that like...
Because TV shows are films now, basically.
It's ridiculous that Stranger Things started with like a bunch of kids on bikes doing E.T. and like Goonies shit, and now we're about to have the fucking Saved by the Bell, the college years with them, and it's like... It's like, okay. And it's like, oops, all screeches.
Seriously, I saw like a still of them on set a couple days ago, and I was like, how... Like, they're adults now.
Yeah, they're all men.
Are you still going to be riding your Huffy around town?
Like, what is this going to be?
I don't know. I'll watch, but
we could fill 3 hours with everything I don't like about Stranger Things, but like... That was really the point. I think Stranger Things was really the point where I kind of fell out of the streaming show, like, buzz stuff, where I just thought that was such a boring show in every way, shape, or form. Probably because I lived through that period of time and it's nothing like it. One of the things that everyone seems to get wrong about like living through the 80s is like it didn't look like the 80s in your head when you think about what the 80s are if you didn't live in the 80s. It was all paisley and like
wood paneling
and tacky 70s wallpaper, and everything was like yellow, that like pale yellow, and all the
horrible haircuts.
The home decor is always wrong. Like no one had neon blue and pink rooms. They all looked like somewhere your grandmother would sew.
Yeah.
There's
nothing glamorous about the 80s. It's very awkward.
Stranger Things gets that a little bit. I mean, there is a lot of paneling in Stranger Things to its credit. Like Joyce's house is pretty accurate.
But everybody in the 80s looked like a dork.
Right.
Like everybody dressed horribly. The fashion was terrible. I was pulling tube socks up to my freaking knees, wearing high top tennis shoes.
And pegging the pants so everyone could see.
Like it was just awful.
Oh, yeah.
It was a travesty, that whole decade. And you're right. Stranger Things romanticizes that era big time.
100%. Well, and also because the guys, the Duffer Brothers who make that, weren't alive then.
Right. They would know.
They were born in like 83. They didn't live through that with any kind of memory.
It's true.
If they did, they'd remember that no one called them proton packs in 1984 because they didn't call them that.
All right. Yeah.
It was in like the documentation of the pre-production stuff, but no one called anything a proton pack about Ghostbusters until the real Ghostbusters 2 years later.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're gonna like lean into the nostalgia bait, you better get it right.
Yeah,
and you better call. Who are you gonna call? You're gonna call someone who fucking lived through it. How about that?
Yep. Fire Native says leftover shag carpets.
Yeah, 100%.
Controller Zen says everything was ugly AF. It really was.
My room that I grew up in, my bedroom, was 2-inch thick, like orange shag carpet.
Everybody had it.
God help you if you drop the Play-Doh.
Yeah.
Because you'd never get it out.
It just ruined the carpet. Yeah. You have to cut it out of the carpet.
Yeah, the carpet needed to get a haircut if you did put anything in there.
Yep. Anyway, the 80s are not as awesome as people make it out to be. I didn't think they were. I lived through them, and I was old enough to know what was going on. And yeah, it was kind of an awkward decade, I guess is the best way I could put it.
I would agree with that. I mean, I love the music, but also
that's the best part of the 80s.
But also, I love and a lot of great movies, obviously.
Yeah.
But I also love, like, there's a whole, there's the synthwave, all that whole genre that's like nostalgia for a version of the 80s that never happened.
Yeah, because there was never music like that.
No, nothing ever sounded like that. No, and I love it.
They use the same synths, but they use them in a completely different way.
Yeah. And like nothing. If you go, they're like, oh, what were the inspirations for 80? Like nothing. Like the inspirations are like weird video game soundtracks and like anime.
Yeah,
like, that's what. And look,
it's because synths were starting to become
right.
tools that you could actually use to make music.
But no one was using them like that. They were using them to just emulate pianos.
Yeah,
it was just like, we can have piano sounds without dragging a piano on the
There was some stuff, like some of Madonna's stuff, like Get Into the Groove.
Well, there's like some new wave stuff and some like all that stuff. I don't
Berlin,
know.
some of their songs.
This week, one of the oldest internet mysteries was solved?
Yeah, I did see that.
Mysterious song.
Yeah.
That like weird like new wave German song until you finally found that band.
Yeah.
How fucking great is that?
It's pretty great. Yeah.
And that song's pretty good.
It is really good. Well, that's why it's been a thing all this time.
Yeah, it's catchy, so you get
Yep. Okay, next up in headlines.
It's called Subways of Your Mind. Look it up.
Yeah. Next up in headlines, we always kind of wonder like what the cost is of cloud gaming. We always talk about how, and Pachter in particular always talks about how there should be a Game Pass tier that's just ad-supported in game streaming for like $10 or $5 a month or whatever. But we really don't have any idea how much it actually costs to stream games as far as bandwidth and all that stuff is concerned. Well, NVIDIA's GeForce Now, which is NVIDIA's streaming tech, I would argue NVIDIA probably has a better grasp on that maybe than anybody.
Yeah, GeForce Now is kind of secretly the best of its kind.
Yeah, which is kind of odd. And this week, NVIDIA announced that they are putting a cap on GeForce Now. And even if you spend up to $20 a month, the most you can play in a month is 100 hours.
I'm honestly surprised this didn't happen sooner. It felt like such a crazy deal.
Yeah. I mean,
although I guess you've already spent $1,000 on a video card, so maybe it's not a great deal.
Yeah. So here's what I'm saying from this is that does this show that streaming games isn't as cheap as people think it is?
Duh.
I mean, that's to me what it really shows is that like it isn't this thing where it's like bandwidth is so cheap now, like it doesn't cost anything. Apparently it does. Because my guess is NVIDIA, now that it's been running GeForce Now for a while, ran the numbers and was like, holy crap, we're losing our ass. If this ever goes nuclear and we have tons and tons of subscribers, we're going to lose our ass on this. And so they've adjusted it. And they said that 94% of GeForce Now customers never hit 100 hours in a month. I was kind of surprised by that.
I'll tell you this much. I bet you that if stuff like PS Plus and Game Pass didn't involve streaming, those subscription prices wouldn't be going up as much as they are.
It's a lot to maintain. You have to have those server farms everywhere.
If it was just you can download these games and play them, I bet those subscription prices would still be where they were.
And I think now we're seeing why Microsoft has not introduced...
Streaming stuff was a giant scam.
Yeah, kind of
not to us, but to the corporate idiots who believe the pitch.
Yeah.
Like, that happened in movies, happened in TV. Like, there's no revenue here.
Yeah.
There's no way to make money from this, given the amount you need to give people versus what they're going to pay for it. It just doesn't... The math doesn't math.
Bandwidth prices have fallen through the floor. That's not a lie or a misnomer.
Yeah, but you're talking about server-side stuff. You're talking about running this stuff. It's not about the bandwidth. It's about what you need to have on your end running all this.
And I think this shows why Microsoft has not set up a Game Pass tier where you can stream and watch ads for $5 because it's not feasible. I think we're probably never going to see that if this is any indication with GeForce Now.
And nothing of value was lost.
Yeah. The other thing, too, I should...
Just install the fucking games.
Yeah. The other thing I should say, too, is that if you are currently a GeForce subscriber, this will not affect you throughout next year. So you won't hit the cap until 2026. So if you're a subscriber now, and by the way, NVIDIA said, hey, if you're interested in GeForce Now, if you go and sign up here in the next couple weeks... you'll be grandfathered into that, and you won't have the cap until 2026 as well. So it's trying its best to not piss off its existing customers.
Ooh, up to 1080p.
But they did, exactly. But they did say already, though, that, like, if you sign up now, like, after the thing, you're gonna hit the cap. So you have this little grace period here to do it, and if you don't and you miss it, new customers in 2025, you have to start dealing with the cap. So I think it kind of puts game streaming in context a little bit, and we didn't really have a whole lot of context for it before, honestly. This is kind of the first data, quote unquote, that we've had around it.
I mean, you can infer some things from it.
Yeah.
But now I will go back to never thinking of that again until you bring it up again.
I'm curious if anybody in our chat uses GeForce now, actually. And Khalid Twilai says, well, what is this? NVIDIA is not price gouging. Or is it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. If there's one company that can afford to not price gouge, it is NVIDIA.
It's the most valuable company in the world.
In the world now. It passed Apple as the most valuable company in the world. Yeah.
To be fair, being the number one on that doesn't, the richest guy in the world isn't doing any better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyway.
Doesn't make you not greedy, just puts you on top.
Yeah, pretty much. Retro Butter Gamer says, FYI, PS5 Digital Edition just got a price cut. Yeah. PS5 base PS5, the Slim, $70 off until the end of the year, by the way. So if you've been waiting to upgrade to PS5, there you go. $70 off the base model. Not off PS5 Pro, though. That's just off the Slim base PS5 model. Cinetyke says, I've tried GeForce Now. It's okay, but I'm a PC guy, so I use my PC. But you got to keep in mind, it's a subscription service. You subscribe, and they give you a selection of games to play, just like Game Pass. So it's not like you're buying a game and streaming the game. It's just Game Pass, but it's run by NVIDIA, basically.
Yeah, but like he says, PC games you can get, especially the stuff they're showing in that trailer, you can get Arkham City for like $5 on a Steam sale. Like, you don't need to subscribe to GeForce Now to play
that B-roll
in
old.
1080p.
Yeah, I mean, that B-roll's like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they have better games now, but... Erebus Jones says, I wonder if the limit isn't more to counter abuse, maybe something like bot farms or for WoW or something. That's possible.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people that just leave that on all the time. But
yeah, and they probably still will.
I don't know. It's such a dead end.
Yeah, but for some reason, NVIDIA is still in on it, so it must not be that much of a dead end. I mean, NVIDIA's pretty smart, so if it were a horrible market, it would have just got out of it instead of capping the...
Some of it's just keeping you in the ecosystem, though.
Yeah.
They want you to, it's not guaranteed that someone's going to buy an NVIDIA card again. Yeah. AMD's got their own advantages.
Well, the other thing is, as we said, NVIDIA has funny money. Like, it has so much money, it doesn't even know what to do with it, so it can play around with stuff like this.
And they've been trying, the GeForce Experience and all those things. They've been trying to be their own brand for a long time as like something that like people,
GeForce Experience gone now, by the way.
Yeah.
They just launched a new app. I think maybe it's only in beta right now, but you don't even have to log in to use it, which is nice.
That is nice.
Because I always forget my password for GeForce
once in a while I have to relog
Experience.
into the GeForce Experience. The only reason I open that is to update the drivers. And I'm just like, oh, NVIDIA password. What the hell was that?
I used to use it to
need
capture...
that once a year. And I don't know what that is.
I used to use it to capture PC footage with Shadowplay, but now I just use OBS. So, yeah.
Shadowplay was pretty good for its time.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. And in fact, this new app will let you record in Shadowplay at 120 frames per second, which you couldn't do before. So they're improving that as well. But anyway, yeah, the GeForce Experience that we've all known and hated for a long time is gladly going away. A Retro Modern Gamer says it just came out of beta. Okay, so it is out there for everybody now, and which means that I'm probably going to go home and there'll be a notification on my PC and I'll download it. Okay, next up in headlines, we've been in this kind of holding pattern for Grand Theft Auto 6. We got the first trailer, and then that's it. We're just like supposed to keep watching the same trailer over and over again.
It's been almost a year.
It hasn't been that long, but it's getting there. It's getting close.
It was like December last year.
Was it? I don't remember, honestly.
I thought it wasn't like right around the Game Awards. Because didn't we say something like, "Oh, is Jeff gonna have the trailer?"
Maybe
of the Game
it is.
Awards?
It's been about
and I
a
said
year.
they're gonna put that out like a week before the Game Awards just to stick it to Jeff, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, it's been a while, and like we haven't got any new information on the game at all. People are freaking out, making up crazy stuff. Like this week, there was a bunch of fans who saw this piece of art from Rockstar and thought that there was something in the moon. They said another trailer was coming. Like that's where we're at this point. Like people are losing their minds, hoping for more information, and then adding fuel to the fire, tossing a gallon of kerosene onto the fire. This week, a guy named Ben Hinchcliffe who worked on Grand Theft Auto 6 up until 2022, made a statement. I'm sure Rockstar was very angry about this, where he just basically said GTA 6 is going to blow your mind and is going to blow people away. How you feel about that? Obviously, he's not there anymore, so he's not really incentivized to lie. Or
talk is cheap.
Yeah, but I mean, he has no incentive to make it look better than it is because he doesn't work there anymore. He didn't elaborate on why it's going to blow people's minds. He did say that, like, well, this is just...
That's why it's not an interesting statement to me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, either tell me some details or fuck off.
Yeah,
like,
well, it got him a lot of run just by sharing that little tidbit.
Yeah, because that's why he did it.
Yeah.
He wants attention.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Well, you're going to blow my mind. I could say that. Who cares?
Well, he's worked on the game. You haven't.
So what?
His word carries way more weight.
I don't think saying GTA 6 is going to blow your mind is a particularly controversial statement.
Really?
Like, look at it. I mean, visually it's going to blow people's minds. Sure.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it looks okay.
You think that just looks okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
I like how I like the flat lighting.
In terms of something the size of San Andreas, looking like that,
No, I
there's
guess
no
you're
other
right.
open world game that compares to
That's
what
a
you're
good
seeing
point.
there.
That's a good point.
That looks like live action.
No, that looks like, you're right. That looks like it's literally filmed on a cell phone. Yeah. So anyway, if you're like us, you're just waiting for any little tidbit on Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, that information to me is pretty encouraging. It's better than him saying, because that is what happens a lot of times. Like, guys leave a place or girls leave a place and they're pissed off. And instead of saying the project's going to be awesome, they'll start saying it's not going to be what you think. Or
I mean, to be fair, blow your mind could mean bad, too.
That's true. That's a good point.
There's no actual value judgment in that statement.
Well, the only elaboration that he shared was, like, that's what Rockstar does. He was like, every time it puts out a game, it blows you away.
Do I need to bring up ping pong again?
Yeah, Rockstar Table Tennis.
My mind was not blown on that. I mean, it was blown in the sense that what a ridiculous thing to make.
Yeah, I'm like, why would Rockstar make this? But yeah, you're right. And to your point about...
And how they were dicks about it.
Yeah, to us, they were, definitely. At Game Trailers. Like, they called us about our review. They called us about every review. I just realized, by the way, that I have a conversation between Rockstar and I over our review of the last Max Payne at GT. Where we gave it like a 7 or an 8 or something like that, and they called me breathing fire.
8 is honestly generous.
Yeah,
to Max Payne 3, I think.
And it was a huge deal at our company because they were getting ready to spend like $300,000 or something with Game Trailers and marketing for the game, and they told our marketing department they were going to pull the $300,000 if we didn't change our review. And so everybody at the company knew about my phone call that was coming up with Rockstar about it. And so I recorded the phone call because I wasn't going to like release it publicly or anything. I never will.
Right.
But I wanted to cover my ass with my boss and like the SVPs at Viacom who are like, yo, your review is about to cost us like $300 and some thousand. And so I recorded the conversation and I listened to it like a month ago and wow. Wow. I still have it, and I'll never release it. But and then they didn't ask to listen to it either. Like my boss never asked for it. I told him I recorded it. I'm like, if you don't believe what happened in the call, I recorded it.
You really put it in your will.
Yeah,
they can't get you then.
That's true. They had called us for pretty much. They didn't call for the GTA 4 review because I reviewed it. I gave it like a 9.7 or whatever. But they called us for almost every other one of them.
They called us about my state of emergency review. Mm-hmm. I think I gave that
because GameSpot gave it like a 9.5. I
think I gave it a 2 or 3 out of 5.
I love Ryan Davis to death, and I will miss him until my last breath. But that is one of the worst things he ever did.
Oh my god, that game is ass. It was one of the most boring things I'd ever played.
There was this after Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah,
there was a thing at GameSpot.
Well, that was the thing that got me in trouble. Was in the review, a written review, I said something about like it's something like it proves that like the magic bullet or the secret sauce of GTA 3 was not Rockstar, it was DMA Design, which was the company that made.
Oh, they don't want to hear that.
Oh, they were real mad about that. And then 2 months later, DMA Design became Rockstar North.
Yep.
So no one could ever say that again.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I turned into Urkel all of a sudden. I do that?
Because DMA hadn't made amazing games at that point.
They made Body Harvest. What are you talking about?
Where's Emperor Dread at?
Body Harvest is amazing.
Oh, man. Retro Modern Gamer says the GTA trilogy blew people's minds because it was so bad.
Yeah, Definitive Edition certainly blew my mind.
Yeah. So anyway, working with Rockstar is always an adventure. They think everything that they make is amazing. But getting back to what I was saying about GameSpot, after Grand Theft Auto 3, there was definitely some Rockstar fanboyism going on at GameSpot, where like the guy, a certain segment of the guys there thought that they could do no wrong.
Yeah, which was stupid. I mean, I got a lot of heat for my Vice City review because I gave it a 4 out of 5, and everyone's like, and I'm like, it's just an expansion pack they're charging full price for.
They got it done in like 18 months.
They didn't fix anything. Yeah. Like, you can't swim, you can't jump over stuff, the aiming still sucks. Like, and no one has any fingers. Like, it's just like...
You know what I forgot to bring up last week about the Veilguard?
Like, I know Ray Liotta's in it, but it doesn't fucking change anything. It's the 80s. God, that game is older now than the 80s were when it came out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. I forgot to mention last week when we reviewed the Veilguard that you can't swim. If you fall in water, you die.
Yeah, and actually a couple times...
And that is a really, really stupid
thing.
thing.
I fell in the water and I couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Like, not that, like, because, you fall in the water and she wiggles around and then she respawns. She would keep respawning in the water. Yeah. And I had to fast travel out of the water to a fast travel point to get out of the water. Now, luckily, that doesn't hurt you. Yeah. It just resets you.
It's just weird in 2024 to have a game
I think it's just to have borders. It's just so you have places where you can't go.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you could just swim out to wherever. And, like, the funny thing is...
It might break the game.
Playing Dragon Age that long, when I switched over to Horizon, just to have a brainless thing, it took me, like... 10 hours to remember I could swim. I'd been avoiding the water the whole time, and I'm like, oh, right, Ayla can swim. I forgot. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it is weird in 2024 to not be able to get in the water in a game, but anyway, the rest of it's awesome at least. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Grand Theft Auto 6. And then our last topic for headlines is a little bit of information on the Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta remake. Konami, people ask them, why did you decide to remake Metal Gear? And my first answer would be like, because you can't make your own Metal Gear anymore because you're not good enough. But right. their answer was that the kids don't know what Metal Gear is.
I mean, that's true.
It is true. It's totally freaking true. And they're like, so we're in this position where we have this gigantic brand that people in their 40s and 50s know and love, but nobody else does, and it's on the verge of dying. And they're like, so we felt like we had to do something to keep this, what we think is very valuable IP, from literally just dying. And I was like, holy crap, like, I feel like we've been doing this so long that we, at least for me personally, like, I don't recognize the passage of time and how it's affecting people who were born in, like, 1990 or in 2000 or whatever.
Like I always talk about how Final Fantasy is an old man's game.
Yeah. They are.
Like, Final Fantasy is an elder millennial game.
Yeah.
Like, Gen Z doesn't... if they know what it is, they don't think of it as anything of interest to them.
Yeah. I think we saw it with the sales of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Let you see what Kingdom Hearts 4 does.
Or the lack thereof. Like, it feels like there's a bunch of properties that need this to happen for them. Mm-hmm. Or they're going to be irrelevant as well. Like, I wonder if anybody, like, who saw the announcement of, like, the Legacy of Kain remasters... what are they thinking? They're like, they must be looking at that and they're like, dude, who the hell wants to play this crap? Like, it's pretty crazy. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of franchises, gaming franchises, that are on the verge of becoming completely irrelevant. Like, they're at the point now where they're digging up stuff like Glover. Like, stuff like that is even going to resonate with us, the 40 to 50-year-olds.
I mean, there is a... $140 collector's edition of a Croc remaster coming up.
You know what I know, Matt? I refuse to curate it on SIFTD. Go look on the website. There's nothing about that Croc remaster. That was where I drew the line in the sand. I was like, Croc is objectively a terrible game.
A Croc.
And there's no reason for that remaster to exist, and I am not putting it in front of the people, the sifters on SIFTD.
I thought the Bubsy 3D remake was as far as we would go.
That pushed me right to the line. And I did curate the Bubsy stuff and created a game page for it. The Croc stuff, I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not putting this in front of our people. It's my job to put the stuff that matters in front of our people. And Croc does not matter. Mm-hmm. It just does not. So, but there are other properties, like, for example, Hybrid Heaven. I would love to see another Hybrid Heaven. it would ever be revived? Probably not. It wasn't that successful when it launched. So,
but it could be now. Like that's the thing is, there's a lot of like some of the failed things back in the day. Like,
They're ahead of their time.
Are you telling me that a modern version of Body Harvest wouldn't be good?
I think it would be good.
Like an alien invasion time travel game with an open world and everything. I mean, you could do that so much better now.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, they could make a Body Harvest sequel, and people would be like, "Hot damn!"
That was the other thing that Rockstar did. I don't remember where I said it, but it was in some review or some segment or something. I noted that I brought up Body Harvest because Body Harvest was the prototype for GTA 3.
Yeah,
like
they don't want people to know that.
No, because Rockstar had nothing to do with Body Harvest.
That
was all DMA design being made for Nintendo.
Yeah,
and through Activision eventually. But like if you play Body Harvest, you're like, oh, this is like GTA 3 except you can aim.
Yeah,
and it's like. They don't want you to know that.
But it is. I mean, there's 120 vehicles or something in that game.
Some crazy amount. 5 huge open areas, huge open worlds. I've never finished that game.
I got trapped. I got trapped in that game. I was in a plane and I landed in this marsh.
You can do that.
And I got stuck.
Yeah.
And that was it. I never played it again. I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah. Well, you gotta. I don't remember how you. There are ways.
I didn't want to start again.
No, it's very hard. It's very. I got to Siberia. I think was as far as I go, which like the 3rd area.
Yeah.
And it was just too hard.
Yeah.
Probably because it ran at like 12 frames a second.
I mean, there's a reason it was delayed like
I'll tell
4
you,
times.
When and if that analog 64 thing comes out, the first game I'm putting in it is Body Harvest because I want to see Body Harvest running at a solid frame rate.
Is Body Harvest worth money now? If you have the game?
I don't think so.
No?
Nothing particular.
It seems like it's sold so poorly. It might.
I have a sealed copy of Body Harvest.
Oh, you do?
So if it is, that'd be great.
Mine's not sealed. I have it, but it's not sealed.
I don't remember why. I mean, I have my old copy from back when it came out. I don't know why I ended up with a sealed copy of it at some point.
I don't know how you found one.
It was years. I've had it for years and years and years.
Wow. Crazy.
I don't remember why I have it.
Look at us, Emperor Dread. We're talking about your favorite game, bro. Finally, after all these years, we're talking about Body Harvest.
The orangest game out there, indeed.
He's there. Awesome. The orangest game out there, yeah. Nobody uses orange in games, but they did.
Yep.
So anyway.
It's like Qbert bled all over the game.
Yeah.
And they just put it out.
But I do feel like we're at this inflection point with a lot of franchises that we have just kind of taken for granted. We're like, oh, you can just revive it whenever you want. But you really can't. Like, you have to start thinking about the new audiences and getting them engaged with this IP.
Yeah.
And
I mean, people ask about why Metal Gear Solid. I think because Metal Gear Solid 3, if you adapts itself the best to the modern game environment.
Yeah.
Like, you can, it's a kind of an openish thing.
You don't have to do as much work on it.
Free form. You can, it's got a, it all kind of feel, it could translate to modern game well enough if you make all the controls work properly.
Yeah. Yep.
So, we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to move the needle with younger people, really.
I don't either. I don't think they're going to care.
Probably not.
It's like...
Because it looks really generic.
Yeah, it's just like he's just some military dude with a gruff voice. Like, they're
like,
probably sitting there wondering why people like us care about it.
Yeah, well, I don't, so I'm with you. But, like, it's the aliens syndrome, where you show a younger person aliens, and they're like, why do you like this cliched bullshit so much? It's like, because this is where all the cliches come from.
This is where it started. Yeah, they weren't cliches when this came out.
But it doesn't matter anymore to them because they've seen the descendants of it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't always go back to the progenitor and get the same experience.
Well, the funny
part, like Metal Gear has that problem.
Well, the funny part is some of the things that borrow those elements from the original, even though they're still not that great, if you watch the original, it's probably still at least a little bit better than the original.
Like there's probably someone, Wildlands does a lot of the same things better and more streamlined and less irritating, and you don't have to watch Ocelot meow.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of it, is like, if you drift from how weird and cringy the cutscenes and the story are, you're not making Metal Gear anymore.
No, you're right.
But if you stick to it, I don't think modern audiences can put up with that shit. So
I can't put up with it anymore.
Neither. I mean, I never could. Like I said, I've tried to play Metal Gear Solid 3 times, and I've never made it more than 2 hours into the game.
Yeah.
And the last time I made it up to the cutscene where you first run into Ocelot, and as soon as he started to meow, I turned it off.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't. I can't do Kojima nonsense anymore. I'm sorry. I never really could, but not now. Like,
well, Death Stranding
so stupid.
just hit 19 million players, and it was just announced for Xbox. Kojima just got the rights to Death Stranding.
Oh, right. Yeah, I saw that they gave.
So now he can release it on Xbox and do whatever he wants with it. So,
well, good for him.
They said 19 million players have played it, but some people got it for free.
Yeah, there's a lot of free, and I mean, you can get that real cheap now. Certainly on PC. I don't remember what people at PS4 or PlayStation has.
Yeah, you've been able to pick it up cheap several different points. So there's no way to know what that 19 million number really means. Because with the way games are just
and how long did they play it?
Right. That's probably the better metric that we want to see that he doesn't want to share.
Because that it brings me back to State of Emergency, because my favorite State of Emergency related thing was a Penny Arcade strip they did about it, where one of them made fun of the other for playing it, and like the third panel or something is like, why am I still playing this? Maybe I can just tape the button down. And then the last panel is him trying to return it at GameStop. And the guy's like, you just bought this yesterday. He says, I'll buy you yesterday. And the guy says, that doesn't even make any sense. And Adam Sessler and I said that to each other for decades.
I remember that comment.
To this day, it's something. Anytime either of us says something about yesterday, or the other has to say, I'll buy you yesterday.
Well, they made a comic about game trailers about Metal Gear Solid 4. We had given it like a 9.4 or whatever. And, like, the whole comic was about how, like, people wanted us to give it a 9.7, but we gave it a 9.4. And then there's the numbers talking to each other. And they're like, I remember that I'm 0.7 and you're 0.4. And we're right next to each other or whatever. I had that framed up in my office and everything. It's like, when Penny Arcade makes a comic about you, you frame it and put it up. Yeah. So we ordered like 20 of them from Penny Arcade, like the big prints of it or whatever, and we gave them to people in the office and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah, we never got one for, I think because we had a relationship with them, so they didn't bother us.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, you're just our bros.
Yeah, we were there. But they did a good G4 one before we were bought by before Tech TV was acquired by G4. It was right when it launched, and it was just like, it's like, hey, I'm wild and wacky in a completely rehearsed way. Welcome to G4. And they're like, what the fuck? Why does everyone think gamers are like, what is this fucking clownery kind of thing? It's a buffoon. And I think Tycho says something like, because what we do is this. We sit on the couch and complain about shit and play against some tedious shit. You got to spice it up. Yeah. And he's like, we don't. He's like, well, yeah, look where we are. Are we on TV? No. And it's like, if only you knew it was coming.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, there you go. Those are our headlines for GameFace episode 411 that I had to save because I totally forgot to put them on our rundown today. I'm totally scatterbrained today for some reason. But anyway, we're about to get on with our reviews for the show. But before that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. So the double dip awfulness for me on election night was the election, but also the fact that I realized I have no LS Cream. I'm out. So, Stevens Charles, you got to hook me up, brother. You got to send me some new LS Cream, or I can go to creamls.com/sifted and find a bottle. Although they're pretty much all over LA.
You just go to Bevmo.
Yeah, they have them locally here, so I can stop anywhere and get them. And probably
even on
area.
Sunday.
Yeah. The truth be told, though, like I don't think I would have drank because I felt like I was on like 2 pounds of meth. Like my synapses and my nerves are just firing at like 1 billion times a second. Like I don't think I could have drank if I wanted to. I was a disaster. And if I had drank, it probably would have got worse. So anyway, if you want to find LS Cream, go to creamls.com/sifted. You can find stores local, as we just mentioned. Bevmo has it. So if you have a Bevmo local to you, you can walk in and get it there. Or you can find a way to get it sent to yourself online, get it sent right to your doorstep. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. Support your fellow gamers. Support your fellow sifters. Support LS Cream. All right. And with that, it's time to get on with our first review. And you guys have probably figured out at this point what our first review is for, and it is for the PlayStation 5 Pro. Matt, you got yours 2 days ago? Is that right?
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah.
Sunday.
You sent me a text message. You were complaining about how Amazon had packaged the thing.
Yeah, it was in a box that was about 1.5 times the size of the PlayStation box, and they'd put one strip of brown paper in it between in the space between the PlayStation box and when I picked it up, it just went thunk like any other way. I mean,
which means that's what it was doing the whole time it was shipped. It's just bam, bam.
Like, good packing job, Amazon. I mean, it's fine.
You got to spend over $1,000 to get the bubble pillows, Matt.
I mean, we're talking about a place that like I've ordered board games from them, and they just slap a shipping label on the board game and ship it to me like that.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow.
I pre-ordered a bunch of.
Oh my gosh!
I've sent them back because they've been so destroyed from that. I pre-ordered a couple of these called Micro Galaxy Squadron. They're Star Wars ships. They're like little things, little figures that fit in them. You've seen them in my office. So I pre-ordered a few of them, and a couple of them showed up this week in envelopes. Like, I opened one of them, and it was already torn apart. Like, the ship was already hanging out of the package because they'd put a fucking...
What did they think was going to happen?
Like a toy that would hang on a peg, right? Yeah. They just put it in one of those padded envelopes and shipped it that way. Clearly, things had been stepped on or knocked around or whatever, or had been like crushed by something. And like the thing was fine. It was. But
it didn't break?
No, it didn't break.
Oh, you're lucky.
It was just shocking to me that like you thought that was a thing to ship this.
It's idiotic.
It's just crazy. So yeah, I don't know.
So Amazon failed on the shipping, but it did deliver the console. The console is not broken. No, it does work.
It seems to work fine. I hooked it up yesterday because you told me to. I honestly hadn't opened it. I was just like, because I knew the transfer was gonna be a pain.
Yeah.
And
talk about the whole process.
I just didn't want to do it anytime soon. So
first you should explain maybe the problems you were having with your base PS5.
The main reason, the secondary reason, I guess, was that like if the tariffs go into effect, these things are gonna be $1,000.
Right.
So if I knew I'm gonna eventually want one, so I'll just get it now.
Yeah.
Secondary was after playing Call of Duty. I hadn't turned the PlayStation 5 on in a while, and I certainly hadn't played an online game with it in a long time. So having gone through the LAN cable disconnected problem again with that, I was like,
now explain that. I don't think people know what you've been going through.
It's a thing that some PS5s have where like it even though the LAN cable's plugged in the Ethernet port and nothing happens, it doesn't move, it doesn't shake, it doesn't do anything. It'll just be like LAN cable disconnected. LAN cable has been connected. LAN cable, it just boing, 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 boing.
Connects and disconnects.
Over and over and over again. There's nothing you can really do. You can wiggle it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it does, in fact, disconnect you when that happens. Normally it doesn't matter, but with Call of Duty it mattered because it boots you out of the single-player game because you can't play Call of Duty unless you're online.
Yeah.
Which, fuck you.
Yeah, seriously.
But like, so I thought, well, and that just happens with some PS5s. Like, and it's probably due to the vertical thing. It's probably hanging out of the vertical thing, and that's like causing the disconnection. Probably like you don't have that problem. A bunch of other people I know who have PS5s don't have that problem. So I'm like, it's particular to each model.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, I bet the Pro isn't going to have that problem. Not at first. We'll see. But I'm like, that might be a good enough reason to have one just so I don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take the expanded SSD memory you gave me and take it out of the old one, put in this one. That'll have 3 terabytes.
Which is awesome.
Which is great.
Which is probably what you need,
That's
honestly.
about right. That's about what I use. Yeah, because I play so much stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
Like normal people probably don't need to do
that.
No.
No.
But like because I have the thing. It's like, I'm playing this, but now I got to play this new thing because that just came out. But I don't want to uninstall the old thing because I want to go back to it eventually when I have time.
I do that
but then,
all
like 2 months later, it's like, now I can go back. I don't remember how to play this game. I got to start over.
Yeah.
The games need some kind of like old adult person with an actual time frame schedule that you load it up. It's like, you haven't been here in 2 months. Let us remind you of how to play this.
Well, the other problem too for me is that when I tend to quit a game, it's usually I'm 25, 35 hours into it before I had to move on. And it's like, you go back into that game, you need to be like really freaking good.
You need to know how everything works, and you're like, you can't have forgotten that you can do like the hold L1 press triangle and up thing and do this one key move to like activate all these.
It does everything. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's probably a good enough reason to have not have to deal with the LAN cable bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it. And it shows up, and I take it out, and I did order the stand because I'm giving the other PS5 to a friend, and I don't want to take the stand because otherwise she won't have.
She won't have a stand.
Stand. So I ordered the stand, but I had to order that directly from Sony, so that's taking its sweet ass time. Eventually I'll need to get the disc drive so I can watch.
Okay, we'll hold it up though and show them that you actually don't need the stand. It has these little.
For horizontal you don't need the stand because it comes with these little feet.
Yeah.
That plug into the thing.
Are there holes in the console?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're just bouncing around in the in the package.
Because the weird thing about the
they were loose. Just I'm like, is this something that was supposed to hold cables in or something? It's like, no, I'll put it on there. I'm like, okay, so it sits horizontal like that.
Yeah.
You cannot stand it. I mean, it does stand up vertically, but like, it's fine. Like, you probably shouldn't risk it.
I wouldn't.
So it just sits like that. And
hold it up to the camera closer so that everyone can get a really good look at it. The first thing that struck me about this thing, maybe I should grab a hold of it. Yeah, the first thing that struck me about it was that it's very light and thin. It is way lighter and thinner than the base PS5. And I like these little ribs here on the side of it. I think it makes the console look better than the base model.
It breaks up the white better.
Yeah. And then on the front here, you can see you have the 2 USB ports, power button.
Well, don't show that side.
What side?
The side with the serial number on it.
Oh. Where's the serial number?
On the bottom where your other hand is.
Oh, you mean down here?
Yeah.
Okay. And then here you can see, get a better look at like the little feet that come with the console, so you can put it horizontal.
Yeah, and those are just bouncing around and they're loose. Like, don't accidentally throw them away.
Yeah.
If you're not going to get the
here you go.
The thing, the stand.
But it's way lighter than the base PS5. I was shocked.
It's about the same width and length, but it is thinner in the vertical way.
What I figured was
you could still eat a meal off of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still big.
Huge.
Yeah. What I figured was that, like, if it's more powerful, but the technology is advanced, so the old tech would be smaller, I figured it would end up being the same size in weight, even though it's more powerful. But it's actually smaller and lighter than the base PlayStation 5.
We'll see if that becomes a problem later.
Also, they've shared that the plates, you have to buy new plates for these. The old plates won't work.
Which is fine. I'm not.
Yeah. Are you going to get colored plates?
No, I don't care.
Because this is the end game here for PS5.
Yeah.
This is the last PS5 you're going to own.
Also, like, my wall is white. It blends in fine.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not looking at it.
Well, now talk about what you do. So you take it out of the box and
you hook it up, and it's basically it's the usual thing. You turn the thing on, and it tells you to log in with your PlayStation account or create one if you don't have one. And so you can do it with a QR code if you have the PlayStation app like a crazy person, or you can just log in with your email and password, and it loads you in. It restarted like 3 times, updating the system software for a bunch of stuff. Then you have to update the controller, and then it jumps into the thing where it's like, do you want to transfer your data from your previous PlayStation? Because you can't actually copy things on a USB stick or whatever and just transfer them manually. You have to basically do a full digital backup of the old system and transfer it onto the new system. Unless you can just you can transfer just the system stuff, like your saves and their preferences and all that kind of thing, and you can also transfer everything you've installed. But it would only do it from the internal memory on the old. It didn't transfer the stuff from the expansion memory.
Oh, interesting.
It got all the saves for everything and everything, because that's all on the core, the internal memory. But it did not transfer the stuff I had installed on the expanded.
Interesting.
Memory. That took 18 hours.
Oh my gosh.
In part because it does it through the home network, but I had to use Wi-Fi on my
because of your
PS5
Ethernet
because
port
of the
problem.
LAN cable problem. Because if that disconnected during that would kill the whole transfer.
Right.
So I had to use Wi-Fi for that. So it took 18 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It finished half an hour before we started the show, which is good because that would have been a bandwidth problem.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it transferred all this stuff, and then I looked at it and I'm like, all right. I turned it off. I was like,
I guess I gotta go shoot the show now.
Gonna bring it up for the show, but also it's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's a PS5, and it's going to look a little better on some of them. Then hopefully the cable stays plugged in.
So did you get a chance to boot it up at all and like check out the home screen?
It's all exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's a PS5.
So you can't tell the difference like booting it up.
I mean, I can tell the difference because my fucking background isn't there.
Yeah.
I know it's a new system.
Your customization isn't there?
My my background settings aren't there. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm wondering why those didn't transfer over.
I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway because the background changes every time you scroll to a different game.
Right.
It's pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it seems identical. It's a controller. Controller's the same thing. It just feels new.
DualSense.
You can feel, it feels new because doesn't have all my hand oils all over it from like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
This is the same controller, as far as I can tell. And
for that price, they should have put an Edge in there. Honestly.
Yeah, probably.
But you don't want it because the battery lasts like 45 minutes.
Well, I play with them plugged into my laptop.
I do now. I play with the Edge plugged in now, and it's annoying.
I have an adapter from the MacBook that blocks the data. Because the problem was one of the more recent iOS updates added something where it automatically, as soon as you plug a controller into it, uses the controller to control the computer. And I couldn't deactivate it. Like, there was no way to deactivate that without like decoupling the controller, so it wasn't charging anymore. So I had to get this little USB dongle thing that blocks data transfer and only charges the controller and doesn't let the Mac access it as an actual controller. So that's how I play all my PlayStation games now. Is plugged into the MacBook so it doesn't lose its charge, but blocked from data so it can't accidentally bring up big screen mode or something. Yeah.
To be fair, the DualSense doesn't have a great battery life either. So
no. I mean,
it's like 4 hours or something.
And I mean that's pretty standard for the chargeable stuff. Like my Xbox controllers last forever, but I use actual rechargeable batteries for those, like Amazon AA's.
Yeah.
And of course the Switch Pro controller lasts months, but like Nintendo stuff always does that.
Yeah.
Again, I pulled out my Game Boy Advance SP, which I hadn't seen probably since I lived in my previous apartment. It must have been. It was at least 6 years.
Yeah.
And it just loaded right. I mean, it didn't have a lot of battery left, but it loaded up. It started up, and I played a fucking game on it. Like
that's great. Yeah. So, any buyer's remorse at this point?
Not.
Have you ever had buyer's remorse, Matt?
For a video game?
For anything, because you don't really need it.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't bought either of the fucking PSVR things.
But does it really matter for you?
I guess not.
Yeah.
But like, doesn't mean I'm stupid with money.
Yeah.
Like that was a dumb use of money to buy those PSVR things.
Yeah.
The first one, because I fell for it a little bit. I thought maybe they might keep. I mean, look, I would never have bought the PSVR 2 if we didn't need it for the show.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah. Because you haven't used it since, have you?
Not since you gave it back to me. No.
Yeah. So you used it for like 3 hours, then I used it for like 4 hours.
I used it for like 10 hours.
Did you?
I used it for 2 days. I played most of Call of the Mountain, or whatever that was.
Yeah,
and,
Horizon Call of the Mountain.
And the Tales from the Cantina. And I played for a couple days on it, but I just, once you brought it back, I'm just like, well, I don't want to move the couch again.
Settle that stuff up again.
I got to move furniture to play that shit. I'm not going to do that. None of those games are good enough to justify that.
No, I agree.
Like, maybe I would have done it for that Batman game, but that's only on the Quest. So, and I don't have a Quest, and I will never have a Quest. So I don't...
One note to keep in mind, people, I don't know if you guys even remember this, but when PlayStation 5 launched, to get PlayStation VR, the first one, to work on PlayStation 5, you had to contact PlayStation and get this free camera that they would send you, or it's a dongle for
the dongle
thing. For the camera. They are about to discontinue those. So I know maybe some of you guys just put it off or whatever. If you want to use your PlayStation VR 1 with your PlayStation 5, you have to call Sony and talk to somebody on the phone and give them the serial number of your PlayStation VR, and they will send you that dongle for free. But it's like we're at the deadline here. So just pro tip, if you want it, you need to go and handle it right now. They also said if supplies run out, you won't get one at all. So don't wait too long to do it if you need it. Just a little sidebar there.
I do have some PSVR games.
Yeah, I'm calling tomorrow, I think, to get mine. I put it off because I was like, I'll worry about it later, and I forgot about it. And now the deadline's here, so I'm gonna call and get mine.
That was like a year ago. They started like August last year, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, just something to keep in mind if you have PlayStation VR 1. Silk Snake says, get out the binoculars to see the extra 5 leaves on the trees in Spider-Man 2. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with PS5 Pro. I mean, that's what you're going to get.
I mean, you're hoping it's going to run better. You're hoping that GTA, this is going to be the best way to play GTA 6. No matter what.
It's true. So Stolty69, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Appreciate it. Khalib Twilight says, with the new model and the $70 discount, is it worth it for PC gamers to consider?
No.
I would just go for if you don't have a PS5 yet.
This is not worth $700.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Like, I bought it because I'm an idiot.
I saw Hip Hop Gamer last night.
And I know when GTA 6 comes out, I'm going to want to play it on this thing.
Yeah.
And literally, I was just like, well, it's easy to get now because it wasn't a big, you just go buy it. They're not sold out. There's no problem getting it, so it wasn't an issue. and it might be way more expensive a year from now. So I'll just have it.
Yeah.
And again, not having the LAN cable problem is nice because Sony won't fix that, at least not for free.
Which is insane.
So in the end, like, it's either buy a new PS5 or as long as I'm doing that, I might as well get this thing, and then I can give the other one to my friend who wants to play Call of Duty or whatever and only has a PS3. So everybody kind of gets some benefit from it, I guess. But like, it's just... No, I wouldn't say this is worth buying. Like, I can't. It's like, and I mean, that's the thing, is like loading it up is just like, oh yeah, it's just it's just a PS5 with a slightly more powerful thing. And some of that you'll notice. I mean, I think the best reason to buy it right now is if you really, really love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like, that game looks
really
night
is.
and day.
It really is. Yeah.
Like, that is the game where you're like, oh, I see the difference on this. Like, the quality mode on that versus the performance on the baseline was really noticeable. Like, performance mode was like playing through Vaseline. Yeah, it was like an N64 game at times. And the performance on this thing, like, crystal clear, fantastic. Yeah. So like, I don't care. Obviously, you know I don't care about that game. But if you love that game, and I know that's a lot of people's like early pick for game of the year, like, maybe that would be. But again, I'm sure there's people who just wait for PC on that. God knows when that'll be.
Reviews have not been particularly kind to PS5 Pro.
I don't blame them. Like,
most people are like, there's really no reason for you to buy this.
I don't think so. I mean, again, I'm kind of trying to future-proof against GTA, and
I'm getting one for Christmas.
And the tariff results, basically.
Yeah. I'm asking for one for Christmas. I hope I get it. We'll see.
I'm not gonna, like. I would never tell anyone. I mean, unless those very specific use cases are in play for you and you are not going to miss the money. Yeah. I wouldn't get one.
Well, not right now. So the reviews have not been kind. And then last night on Facebook, I saw Hip Hop Gamer gushing all over it. He said that it's like buying the top of the line gaming PC for $700.
No, it's not.
And I love
someone
Gerald.
who has a top of the line gaming PC, it absolutely is not. Because you know what a top of the line gaming PC can do? It can run this shit at 120 frames a frame.
Yeah.
Come on.
I love Gerald. And Gerald, by the way,
he's a really good dude.
He is. Like, people got him wrong. Like, he's a really good guy. I love Gerald, but he is also a little rambunctious sometimes. And sometimes I do feel like if people give him stuff, he's a little more apt to look at it a little more positively.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
But like, or he's just maybe just a positive guy. But he was gushing over it. He's the first person I've seen.
He loves video games.
He does.
Like, that's all it is to it. I mean, he loves video games, and he sees the best in the people who give him those video games to play. Not in the sense of like give him stuff for free, but in terms of the people who make it possible for him to play video games. Period. The people who make them. The people. He just has a lot of love and respect for those people, and I feel like there's we are more harsh critics about that. We are more cynical about that. Oh yeah, so I understand his perspective on that. He comes from a more enthusiast side of things. Yeah,
absolutely.
And he, again, like you say, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in any of this shit. Yep. And seriously. You look at, and like people look at him, it's like, oh, he's got the belt, and he's just like, no, you can walk right up to him.
Look past that.
Walk right up to him and talk to him, and he is the sweetest dude.
That was his foot in the door. The whole persona. The persona.
Yeah. And he was doing that before that was.
I know.
He was a pioneer.
He kind of was. Yeah. Silk Snake says my PS5 just died today. That sucks. I haven't heard of a PS5 dying. That's the first one I've heard of, other than watching people who repair them on YouTube. And then he says, I will open my Pro. Will I open my Pro, or will I sell the 30th anniversary Pro and get a Slim? What's your advice? Well, I would not. Here's the thing. I would not recommend opening the 30th anniversary edition.
I would definitely sell that.
Yeah, I think that's number one. Sell it and make a ton of money on it. And then I would get a base PS5 Pro for $700.
Yeah.
You'll sell that 30th anniversary edition for probably... you'll make $1,000 on it in profit, probably.
Not anymore.
No?
You might make like $500.
Really? That's it?
There's not a huge...
I mean, they're asking triple for them on eBay.
They are, but they're not getting it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I just went and looked yesterday.
You got to price them to sell, not price to dream.
I went yesterday because I just got the notice that the only thing I managed to get, which was the 30th anniversary.
Yeah, I can say it's not worth it before playing it because I know what it is. I own a PS5 and I know what they look like. It's the same fucking games. Like, it's just they run a little better if they've been updated to support it. Like, it's not worth $700. There is not $700 worth of better here.
Oh, he also Silkshake then brings up that it's €800, and then he would need another drive for €120.
Plus the disc drive, plus a stand. Yeah. Like, for fuck's sake.
I would still recommend getting the base PS5 Pro.
If you're gonna get one, I mean, especially if you already got a 30th anniversary, flip that sucker.
I mean, you're getting it for free. You're gonna make enough money.
You're not losing anything.
Yeah, get the Pro, man. And if you have to spend the extra money for the drive and the stand, and do that too, you're still gonna get it for free.
You're still gonna come
because you were lucky enough to get that 30th anniversary, which I tried really hard to get.
Yeah, you're at least gonna come out of it probably with a profit of a couple $100.
Yeah. So yesterday, I went on eBay and I started looking at the only thing I managed to get, which was the 30th anniversary Portal, which is the streaming handheld. And I just got a notice yesterday saying, hey, we're about to charge you for that. We're about to ship it. I'm supposed to get it on like November 21st. So I'm like, all right, I'm about ready to sell this thing. I want to go to eBay and see what they're selling for. And they are selling for about $350. And I think I paid $200 for it or something. Mm-hmm. So it's not quite double, but it's pretty close. And those are selling prices. Those are not asking prices. I went to like auctions that had finished, and they finished around $350. So I'll make $150 off of it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I would guess the 30th anniversary consoles, you should probably at least be able to make a G.
Yeah, I would say you could probably get $1,000 for those.
Yeah, so it's $1,000 to buy the whole bundle thing. You could probably get at least $2,000 for it. So if you're one of those people, take that G that you made, flip it, and get yourself a base PS5 Pro. And
it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's not
it just doesn't look the same.
Yeah, it's literally just cosmetic.
Yeah. So that's what I would recommend, Silk Snake, but obviously it's your money and you can do whatever you want. Ooh, Shane the Scalper. I hear you, Erebus Jones, but I'll tell you why I'm doing this. And because I do hate scalpers, and I typically abhor this behavior, but I tried really hard to get the 30th anniversary bundle for $1,000. I was literally online like all day clicking buttons trying to get it. It was the only thing I could get. And I didn't want to come away empty-handed from all the time I had dedicated trying to get the console. So I bought it, knowing then when I bought it, I had no intentions of keeping it. I have no interest in having a Portal at all.
No. Well, that's also like the problem with scalpers is they take mass retail stuff and make it scarce through over-purchasing and flipping.
Yeah.
This is not what's happening with this. This thing is scarce because they only made like 9,000 of them or whatever.
This was intentional scarcity.
Yeah, this is literally a legitimately scarce product. So it's going to be worth more. That's all there is to it.
So I hear you, giving me a little bit of business over it. But seriously, man, I spent like 5 hours trying to get the 30th anniversary edition. I was like, dude, my time is worth X amount of money. I'm going to come away from this not empty-handed. I'm going to get something.
I don't think this is not somebody buying 12 of them.
Right. I got one. Yeah. So I'll make $125 after the fees from eBay. Hate me for it. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not the guy who buys 14 of every third-party Transformer and puts them on the group saying like, you didn't get one, but I got 15 of them. Yeah. And I'm going to sell them all to for double what I paid. And you idiots are going to be dumb enough to buy it. I was like, well, okay. Well,
I just hope the market hasn't fallen out by the time I get mine and put it up for sale, because it could. Because right now people are selling their pre-orders, basically. They're like, I have this pre-ordered, so how does that work? Because it's like after an auction ends, you have like 2 days to ship the item out. Like,
not for a pre-order.
So you can set it up in eBay that they got to wait?
You just set it as when the item will come in. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So anyway, there you go. Any other comments you have about the PS5 Pro?
No.
I mean, again, the thing that hit me the hardest was it's smaller and lighter than the base PS5.
Yeah.
It's just as tall, but it's way thinner. But other than that, it also looks a whole hell of a lot like the base PS5, other than those mid kind of plate ridges that it has or whatever that set it apart. But
and the grooves.
Yeah. But maybe the better question is, like, for most people, should they buy...
No longer has a normal USB-C on there, normal USB on the front.
Yep. Do they have it on the back? Is there a normal USB port on the back? I did show it to you guys. There is one?
There's 2.
Okay. That helps. But here's what I've noticed. If I plug stuff in to those back USB ports, when I go to unplug it, that cable is almost like liquid. It is so mushy from the heat. Yeah. So I try to plug it in on the front if I can. But only USB-C on the front, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have not tried plugging in my external SSD. Like, I have the external USB SSD that I use for where all the PS4 games get installed.
Yeah.
So I should be able to just plug that from the old system to the new one, but it's going to have to go in the back still.
Yeah.
It's held up.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. That's the PlayStation 5 Pro. Maybe you come back next week and headlines and give us a little update after you've actually played it and
Maybe.
checked out a couple games.
If
it's worth talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
I don't know what to play to do that.
Well, Horizon, right?
Oh, Forbidden West?
Yeah.
I guess.
No, Zero Dawn. Isn't that PS5 Pro enhanced?
I guess.
I thought it was.
I don't know how well that's going to compare to me having just played it at 130 frames a second for like a week.
On PC. Yeah.
Like, that's not going
I hear
to, I don't know what
It's not going to leave an
and
impact.
I didn't really play Rebirth beyond the demo, so I
Mm.
don't really remember. It's not going to be, I guess I could load up No Man's Sky already updated for that, but it's like, I haven't played that in a year. I
think there's like 30 or 40 games at this point that have been enhanced for PS5 Pro.
Yeah, I saw the list. I don't remember too many of them.
I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised by how many
Last
there were.
of Us, I guess. But again, like the increment, it's so incremental that this is a future-proof purchase to me. It's because if you're going to play GTA 6, you're going to want this.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Because like I said, I asked for it for
presumably
Christmas.
for whatever else Sony is going to put out next year, which we assume they will put something out.
We'd hope. It'll run better.
Something, yeah, it'll be better. It'll be the best way to experience the Sony games, which are not going to be on PC for another year or more. So, yeah, worth it in that sense, but the price is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's ridiculous that it costs that much. I know that's just how things go now, but
I put it on my Christmas list, and I'm hoping my wife and my mom and her parent and everybody just pitches in to get me the Pro. So we'll see how it goes. I'll report back in January and let you know if I actually got it or not. But anyway, there you go. That's our initial impressions of the PlayStation 5 Pro. Do you have any more questions? Retro Modern Gamer says you should try Gran Turismo 7. Cinetyke says the hope is future games have enhancements like Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, which has way more resolution on the Pro. Yeah. And then Rock and Roll 458 says, for those who never got a PS5 and missed all the exclusives, would you still recommend buying the Pro model or just the base PS5?
I mean, I think if you don't have one at all, if you're going to spend the $500, you might as well spend the $700.
I agree. I hate to say it, but that's Sony.
And I know some people can't do that, but like,
if you can afford it, get the Pro.
if you can't afford it, I go for the Pro.
But if you're penny pinching and
just
you're on a tight budget,
maybe just make sure you have room to put it horizontally, so you don't have to spend the extra money on the stand.
Yeah.
I mean,
You'll be
it's
happy.
like $30, but it feels real shitty.
Yeah.
That it doesn't come with the
It
stand.
does. Yeah. It really feels like they're nickeling and diming you.
Yeah.
And they are. Let's be honest.
The original did.
Taking the drive out.
and it came
nickeling and
and
diming.
honestly, the original, I think the stand is better.
Yeah.
It's different now.
Yeah, I don't like that stand either, though.
No.
'Cause it's like if I pick up my console to take it like back to capture footage, like the thing slides off and falls off. Like it doesn't really attach to the console.
Yeah, it does. You screws in.
No, only if you stand it vertical.
Yeah.
Horizontal. I have mine
Okay.
horizontal.
Yeah, I don't, yeah. Horizontal. It seemed like, just balance it.
That's
on
what
the
it
thing.
is. Yeah. And
that's
if you pick
stupid.
it up, the stand falls off.
Well,
which
this is
annoying.
better than that. The little feet are better than that.
That's true, actually.
If
Yeah.
they plug in.
Yeah. That's why I asked you if they plugged into the console or if they're just like sitting in there. Because I was like, that's annoying for me. So anyway, there you go. Those are our impressions of PlayStation 5 Pro. Oh, how big is a PS5 Pro hard drive? Retro Modern Gamer asked.
2 terabytes.
Yeah.
Turns out that 720 gigabytes is the perfect size we have to stick to thing was bullshit. Just like
I think we probably called it like that when it first came out. But then if you have an external or an extra drive installed in your base PS5, that same drive will work in the Pro. So the one that
the M2 expansion or whatever,
Yeah.
you're supposed to just be able to take it and transfer it right over. So if you do that, you'll have
3 terabytes.
3 terabytes.
Well, depending on your.
I guess you could get a 2 terabyte one.
Yeah.
But honestly, 3 terabytes should be enough.
Yeah. For the average player, 2 is enough.
Especially if
honestly.
you're putting your PS4 games on an external drive,
Right.
like I am. Like 3 terabytes should be enough for, especially this year.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. There's not a lot sitting on your hard drive from this year. That's
And
for
honestly,
sure.
if you're not playing Call of Duty or Gran Turismo, you're
Yeah.
not using that much space in the first place.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Let's
Or
move on.
Horizon Forbidden West is gigantic, actually, to be fair.
Oh yeah. It's what 100.
It's like 130 or something.
Yeah, I thought like 140 gigs.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
With the expansion.
Yeah, 4K textures, man, take a lot of space. All right, let's move on to our next review. We're going to review a game this time, and that game is Mario and Luigi Brothership. I was kind of surprised, Matt, that it's been so long since a mainline Mario and Luigi game, a new one, has been released. This is the 6th entry
What was the last one?
in that franchise, which blows my freaking mind. Can you believe there's been 6 of these things already?
Well, I can only think of like 3 of them. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either.
It's like the partner is Mario and Luigi, Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story,
Yep.
and 3 more?
Yeah, somewhere along the way.
Including this one? So there's 2 more I'm
Yeah,
forgetting
this is
about?
the 6th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You say so.
Yep. It is a turn-based RPG. And the plot, the setting for the game is set in this world Concordia, which has been broken into pieces. There's this magical.
Bet someone was nervous about that for a while this year.
Yep. There was this thing called a magical uni tree. It had been destroyed, and basically this uni tree was using kind of sap to hold all these islands together into Concordia. And when the tree was killed...
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Unitree.
Right. Yeah, Unitree. Right. And when the tree died, all the parts of it broke apart. And so it's your job in this game, as you and Luigi, to go to these islands, play through the islands, solve it, and at the end of the island, there's these things called almost like a sap plug or some crap. You pull the plug, it reconnects with the new tree. So you're on this floating island called Ship Shape, which is basically a ship that floats around in the ocean. And when you save each island, it recreates this magical connection between the island and Ship Shape, the ship that you're sailing around on. And the Ship Shape thing isn't just like this menu that you go to and you select the island and then you go there. You physically ride around on Ship Shape on this ship, and then you go to this separate map screen that shows you the ocean currents, and then you decide which current you want the ship to get onto, and then the ship, in real time, starts traveling to that point. And once it starts traveling to that point, you need to get to the cannon on the ship and look through the cannon sights and find the island and actually shoot Mario and Luigi to the island.
Mario and Luigi just can't use ramps, apparently.
Well, the islands are like miles away across the ocean or whatever.
Well, if the ship can move.
Right. It can.
Go to the island.
Well, they don't want the ship to leave the current streams, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So you have to shoot yourself from the streams.
It feels like a solved problem in our world.
It really does. And so basically what you do, there's 15 different islands. You go to the islands, you play all the way through the island. At the end, you find the plug that reconnects that island back to the mothership. And then the objective is to connect all the islands back to Ship Shape and recreate Concordia again. And that's the basic objective plot of the game. The game is like crazy long. It is like 30 hours. I mean, I've played it for like 24 or something like that. And I still have like 3 islands to go. So my guess is it's going to finish at around 30 hours. I'll just say this. If you're over the age of like 11, it's going to be hard to make it through the plot of this. It's not one of those Nintendo games where it's like, yeah, my kids can play it, but I like it too. Like, the plot in this game is not that way. Like, kids will probably enjoy it because you run into it's 30 hours long. So you run into like a huge cast of goofy characters along the way. But generally, if you're an adult, this isn't one of those games you're going to enjoy playing alongside your kids after the first like 5 or 6 hours or so.
Yeah, how long to beat says 34 hours and 14 minutes average.
So it's actually longer than I thought even.
Not much, but
it's a big boy. It is a big game.
Completionist 61.
Whoa.
If you want to do everything.
So here's the thing. Like, when you first start this game, you can see here maybe in this B-roll, like, here's a weird thing. When the game starts, they put you on your first island, and there's all these boxes and crates lying around. And of course, I'm like, I'm going to butt stomp the hell out of these crates. You can't do anything to the crates. And you're like, what? So you like are messing around with them I rested around with them for like 15 minutes trying to figure out how to break the crates. I finally gave up. And the reason I couldn't break them is because the whole game is designed in such a way that once you finish an island, you go back to the ship and then you can go to the next island. Or later on, as you gain new abilities, you can go back to the islands that you've already visited. And there are areas that you can go to that you couldn't get to before with the new abilities that you have. So not only, each island takes probably 45 minutes, I'm guessing. Some are shorter, some are longer, but roughly around 45 minutes to complete. And you do the math times 15, you get to 20-some hours just that alone. But there's lots of other stuff that you can do too. And again, you end up going back to those islands later on as you get new abilities and going back and spending even more time on those islands that you'd already spent 45 minutes to an hour on. So
according to How Long to Beat, this is the second longest Mario game.
I'm not surprised.
And the longest being Dream Team, the one of the other the ones I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I thought these typically were shorter, the Mario and Luigi games, but I guess I'm wrong.
No, the Paper Marios in these have always been pretty lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Paper Marios are up there too, 30.
Yeah, those are long.
Hours.
Yeah.
And then Paper Jam is the other one I couldn't think of. That was 27 hours. It says.
Vincent says you have to backtrack, or is it just for extra stuff? Well, so the backtracking isn't a big deal because once you get back to ship shape and you've completed that island, a warp portal appears, and you can just warp back there. You don't have to go through the rigmarole to get back there anymore.
Bowser's Inside Story 25.
So I guess they all are pretty long.
Sticker Star 21. Mario and Rabbids, of course, are pretty long. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. That was the other one. That was the first one. 20 hours. Yeah,
so this is longer.
They're all 20 plus.
Yeah, but still, they're pretty long. I'm surprised by that.
This is a long one. Yeah. This is not nothing.
So as you might get, so here's the thing. This is a turn-based RPG where you have a party, but the party is only ever Luigi. You never get.
And that's not a party.
It's nearly.
As Daisy will tell you.
So you have a 2-character party throughout the entire game. So you better love you some Luigi, because if you don't like him, he will get on your nerves. One thing I will say, Matt, is that Mario does not sound like Mario at all in this.
Was it the new guy?
It sounds like the guy from the movie, and he's not good.
It sounds like Chris Pratt?
No, but it sounds just like a guy. It doesn't sound like Mario at all. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, Chris Pratt didn't sound like Mario to me. Did he to you?
Well, no. Well, I mean, he sounded like Mario, not annoying.
Oh, so you like Pratt better than the old...
If I have to watch a 90-minute movie, I'm going to want to watch a human being talking. You're like, wah-ha, 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 fuck you. That's not a fucking character voice. Like, that's a sound effect.
Well, I would argue that...
And also, the original Mario voice was Peter Cullen.
That's true, yeah.
Mario originally sounded like Optimus fucking Prime. So there you go.
Well, in this
He's a plumber from Brooklyn. He should have some heft.
Well, in this game, he doesn't talk. He does like this weird like Banjo-Kazooie gibberish with his quote unquote Mario voice.
So does it sound like?
It's more like. So
it's kind of like Banjo-Kazooie trying to do Mario.
A little bit, yeah. It's weird. And then when they when he just says like Luigi, like it doesn't sound like Mario. Like, it sounds like some random dude.
Just a guy?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a guy doing a Charles Martinet impression?
No.
Interesting.
Now, Luigi does. Luigi still sounds the same. He still says Mario, and he sounds like Luigi. So, I don't know what's going on.
Is it the same guy from Wonder? The new voice?
I'm guessing it is. Yeah, I think it is. But maybe the performance in this just wasn't as good. I don't know. But I thought
maybe
Mario's
they're adjusting Mario's voice to sound more like the billion-dollar film.
It could be. Yeah.
There's no reason to stick to the Martinet voice
you're right.
if your majority of people in the world know you from that movie.
Yeah. So now you're seeing what I was talking about. So I had already set the stream, and with the ships riding around the stream, we got close to the island. You run to the cannon, you look down the cannon, you sight up the island, and then you just launch your ass to the island. And then you get there, you complete the island. When you finish, you pull the plug. It connects back to the ship. You go back to the ship and on to the next island. And that is a process that repeats over and over again. Now, as you might have guessed, because this game is called Brothership, this is all, there's so many the double entendres in this game. But this is all about Mario and Luigi teaming up. And literally everything in the game focuses on that. Like, it takes a little while to like get over the idea of controlling the two of them at once, because you do that. You have a separate jump button for each of them. So Mario's jump button is A, and Luigi's jump button is B. And he will also automatically jump over stuff. So if Luigi's following Mario and Mario jumps over a gap, Luigi will then automatically jump over that gap. You don't have to manually jump him over the gap every time.
So it's not like Brothers.
No, actually it's not.
You got a double analog.
It doesn't quite break your brain. There are moments in this, though, where you do control each one of them separately at the same time, but they're few and far between, and they give you like assists. So it's not like brain breaking like it can be in certain games where you're trying to kind of rub your belly and pat your head at the same time. It's not that bad, but it is a huge consistent theme throughout the game. As I said, Mario is the A button, Luigi is the B. There's tons of timing-based action. You're starting to see some combat here. So, like every other Mario and Luigi game, you jump in, you time it right so it lands the attack, then A, then B, then A again. And then when you're Mario, it's reversed. It's A, B, A. And it's weird because you have to initiate the attack with Luigi with the A button. Then when he lands the first attack, you tap B. Then when he combines with Mario, you tap A. Then when he lands to deliver the final blow, you tap B again. And that's kind of like how the whole game works. You are working with like the two of them at the same time. Once you start getting into battles, you also have to dodge enemy attacks. And I'll be honest with you, that's the only challenging part of this game. This game is way too easy. The hardest part is you need to jump over the attacks of enemies. And so you can see there, you jump over it with A with Mario, you jump over it with B with Luigi, and this is my first ever battle. It takes me a little while to figure out how all this crap works. I'm like, wait a minute. But after, like, you fight something, like, twice, you've memorized, like, how to avoid their attacks. And not only that, once you get good at avoiding attacks, you can actually do damage while they're attacking you. So if you land on them when they attack you, you actually do more damage than a lot of your physical attacks will do when it's actually your turn. So a big part of the strategy in this is memorizing the attacks of the enemies and learning how to jump and land on them and actually do damage to them when they're trying to attack you. It makes battles so much easier. My biggest complaint about this game in general is that there just aren't enough attacks for Mario and Luigi. So those jump attack combos that I just showed you, 26 hours into the game, you're still using them. You're still using that same jump combo, that same 3-step thing. Now, as time goes on, you do get new abilities. Eventually, you get a hammer. And like in all these Mario turn-based RPGs, you use the hammer to attack enemies that are spiked. Because if you try to jump on them, it will damage you. So anytime you see a spiked enemy, you got to use the hammer to hit them. And then eventually you get shells. And the shell attacks in this, when you set them off, it becomes almost like Mario Strikers, like the soccer game. Like they kick the shell back and forth, and then one of them will jump up in the air, one will pass it to him, and he'll do like a crazy kick and deliver a huge, devastating blast. And those are probably the most effective attacks in the game. But that attack takes literally like 15 seconds. You watch him pass it back and forth, and then he jumps up, and then he does the big spinning, and then he does a kick, and then there's a big explosion. And the first 3 times you see that, it's freaking awesome. And then after that, it's annoying as fuck. And you have to watch it over and over and over. The jump attacks, you got to watch it over and over and over. What you're seeing right now in the B-roll, so Luigi has these special abilities that Mario doesn't have. They're generally like context sensitive. Like you control him with the L1 button, and he can do 2 things. So he can do context sensitive stuff. Say there's a row of things that need to be plucked. You can tap L1, and Luigi will just go and pluck them all. Or there's these things called Luigi Intuition, which was what you saw in the B-roll, where he does like a special thing that only Luigi can do to open up new parts of the map. So you saw there, he slid through the slats in that fence. You have to tap the B button to get him through there.
I'm glad something happened, because I was like, you could definitely crawl under that.
Right.
Dude. I'm just saying.
And he gets more of those as time goes on. You also get more...
Seems a little mean to Mario.
Yeah.
But it's like, Mario's too fat to do this, so get Luigi to sneak under.
Here's the context-sensitive stuff I was talking about, where Luigi just goes and does a bunch of tedious stuff for you, so you don't have to do it. So he is kind of like... He is the sidekick
true younger
in this.
brother.
Yeah, seriously. You do the crappy stuff. I'll do the fun stuff. And so anyway, I talked about the hammer and the shells. Also, eventually you get Yoshi's eggs, and they actually are the most potent attack in the game. But you can't use them as often because they are the most potent. So eventually you get Yoshi's eggs as well. You also end up getting this stuff called battle plugs, which are like special attacks that you get that you can do. So eventually you do have a pretty big repertoire of attacks, but still that base jump attack, you end up using it through the whole entirety of the game, and it never changes. And they never give you the option to just skip past the animations. To me, that is something they should patch into this game right away. Like, one of the first patches for this game should be the ability to let you skip the battle animations. But as of right now, I didn't find a way to do it. I couldn't find anything in the menus to do it, so I don't think it's there. What else? So out in the world, there's platforming controls. The jumping sucks. It feels completely weird. You feel detached from the character. The thing is, it's not a platformer. Like, platforming is just kind of like a means to an end. It's like, I need to jump across this little gap. It's not like it's testing your skills or anything like that, but it does still feel really crappy and kind of disconnected. And eventually you get other traversal mechanics. Like, eventually Mario and Luigi can do this crazy spin thing that almost turns them into like a flying saucer. Lets them fly over bigger gaps and fly higher. So you do get abilities that you use kind of in the overworld as well as the course of the game plays out. But again, still you have to watch the annoying animations all the way to the end every freaking time. I've been watching the B-roll here. The animation in this is really good. One thing that's really cool, I don't know if it's even in the B-roll, is if one of the brothers falls, when the enemies attack, the other brother goes and scoops him up and puts him over his shoulder and goes through that turn with the brother on his shoulder, which I thought was really cool. And then some of just the animation of the attacks and stuff like that. I think the animation is really good, but I don't really like the graphics. Have you noticed, Matt, that their eyebrows clip through like they're not attached to their heads?
Yeah.
So they clip through like their hats and like their hair and everything. Like, I'll say this, the game runs pretty well.
Definitely a choice.
Yeah. The game runs pretty well. I didn't, having come off Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda, where it would bottom out to like 10 or 15 frames per second here or there. There's a couple times where it chugged a little bit, but nothing quite that bad. So the engine holds up for the most part, but the cel-shaded visuals, like there's just like weird compromises. So here, it doesn't look that bad. The water actually kind of matches the world. But like when you start the game and Mario is standing in front of like the ocean, the water is real water from a video game, meaning it just looks like a game water that would be in a simulation or something like that. It doesn't match the art style of the game, which I found a little bit weird.
I kind of see it in the background there.
Yeah, it just
Like
looks
the
like
ocean.
water in any video game instead of being like cel-shaded water, so to speak. So, I don't know, you're watching the B-roll. Art is subjective. You may think it looks awesome. I was not a huge fan of it. But one thing I will say...
It looks okay. I mean, they've always kind of had that weird art style in these games.
Yeah.
Maybe it works better in 2D, probably.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, and I get like... You put the eyebrows over the hats because that way you can kind of see their expression even when the hat's down. You got a high angle, and most of the angles in this game are high.
Yeah.
So it helps being able to see what they're thinking.
Yep.
It is a weird choice, but like cartoons be that way sometimes.
Yeah. But then there's other highlights in the animation. Like if you get status effects, if you're like on fire or whatever, it's hilarious. Like the animations of Luigi when he's on fire, like I left him on fire, so I just wanted to watch the funny animations. So there's parts of the graphics that do have some spark and are pretty cool, but in general, I was not a huge fan of the look of the game.
Link So Good says that this was made by the Octopath team.
Yeah.
I did not know. I would not have guessed that.
Yep. Well, they hid who made this for a while.
Yeah, which is weird, right?
That's just what Nintendo does now.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just does. So you're seeing me leveling up here. You don't actually control anything when you level up. All your stats are increased automatically. You don't get to pick and choose where the stats come from. Now, there are shops in the game, and for everything you do in this game, you're rewarded coins. If you find stuff, you get coins. You win battles, you get coins. You kill an enemy in a battle, you get coins. All those coins you can use at a shop where you can go and buy new gear. And this isn't like some crazy in-depth RPG where you have like 20 pieces of gear and all this. There's like a handful of them. But you do notice a pretty big difference with the gear. So it's worth spending the coins to get the gear. It does help in battle. But here's the thing. You will die in this. Like, obviously, I died or I wouldn't know about the animations where they pick the brother up or whatever. But overall, it's pretty damn easy. Like, I always had at least, like, 30 or 40 mushrooms, which are the health items in this game. The reason you die, typically, is because you're just getting lazy and not paying attention. It's not because the game is so hard that you can't figure out how to beat the enemies. At least that was the way it was for me for the most part. So you have an overabundance of health items. I didn't find that this game was all that difficult. And it just ultimately, there's just not enough moves in general. I talked about the stuff that you eventually get throughout the course of the game, but we're talking about like 30 hours. Like, that's still not that much. And I just found myself after like the first 10 hours, I just felt like I was going through the motions. Just the same thing every battle. Like, there's not enough enemy variety in the game, so you're fighting a lot of the same enemies a lot of the time. Like, once you go to a new island, there's like one or two enemy types from that island, and the game overall just becomes very repetitive very quickly. And as I was saying earlier, I do feel like it does a pretty good job with the Mario IP. And obviously a lot of these enemies and characters have been in other turn-based RPGs, but I found the implementation of some of the enemies in this to be very, very creative. Like, what are those things in the Mario game that are just balls that are stacked vertically on top of each other?
I don't.
Wiggler. No, the Wigglers are the big ones.
Those are the long caterpillars.
Yeah.
The tall
you know what I'm talking about,
I know what
though?
you're talking about. I don't know the names of Mario enemies.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. Like, the way they work in this is, like, they attack each ball from the bottom. So the stat keeps getting shorter as the attacks keep going out. Like, there's lots of stuff like that where I was like, wow, that was a pretty creative way to work with that character that I've seen hundreds of times in other Mario games. So I do feel like they did a pretty good job using the Mario IP in this when it was all said and done. And then the islands themselves, they're all themed. There's like 15 different ones. And they all have a different theme. And some of them are generic, like here's the lava island and here's the tropical island. But then there are some crazy ones. Like there's this one that's like a 1950s island where it's like there's an Elvis impersonator and they're playing like the theme song to like 50s TV show or like ripoffs of like 50s TV show theme songs. So it does mix it up pretty well. And then the other thing that mixes it up pretty well is every once in a while you come across like context sensitive mini games. And that's what ultimately ends up breaking up the gameplay monotony at least a little bit, but in my opinion, nowhere near enough. I just still found this game ended up becoming a grind after like 10 or 15 hours. I played it for another 10 hours after that, and then it really started to turn into a grind, and that's where I stopped, and I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. I think I'll probably go back and play more Dragon Age instead. This game is $60, so it is a full-price game, but, 30-some hours, I think that's probably worth the money if you get into it, and you play it all the way to the end, and you end up finishing it. I don't see myself doing that, personally. Another thing I would add is that it plays great in handheld mode. So I played this game all day Sunday while watching football. From 7 a.m. until like 10 p.m. at night. I sat there and played this while football was on the TV. And it's the first time I've played handheld mode on Switch in a really, really long time. This game works great in handheld mode. Everything's big enough that you can read everything fine. Everything plays well, reads well. You can understand what's going on. The text is always big enough to read, no problem. So if you're a handheld Switch player, I think this game is a pretty good choice. It's also a turn-based RPG, which is perfect for handheld because you can take your turn, you can put it to sleep, and no harm, no foul. You come back 3 hours later, you're still exactly where you were. So I had fun with this game, but again, I think coming off of Dragon Age, the Veilguard may have framed it in a different way. Because I kept thinking to myself, I'd rather be playing Dragon Age instead of playing this. But I do think it is a solid turn-based RPG for Switch. And I guess another people would maybe ask then, okay, what about this or the Thousand Year Door remake? And that's a tough one. But I would say the combat in Thousand Year Door is way more varied than this. And I enjoyed it for a longer period of time. I would also argue that the story in that game is way more palatable to older players. This game is really made for kids. And I felt like the Paper Mario game, there's some innuendo in there and some situations. There's like gangs hanging out in the alleys. Like there's nothing gritty about this at all. It is just Saccharine Mushroom Kingdom turn-based RPG, really. But a good one and a solid one, just unremarkable. So I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think I'm going to play any more of it. I kind of got my fill. And I do think that there are better Mario turn-based RPGs on the market that aren't all that old and were just released. When was that released? Like 4 or 5 months ago?
Thousand Year Door? Yeah. This year.
I mean, it seems kind of silly for them to release this so soon, honestly.
Well, it's not, they don't, not they're doing anything else.
Yeah. But anyway.
This is not a Switch 2 tour de force.
No,
so you can safely put this out now and not lose anything.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So there you go. That's Mario and Luigi Brothership. Obviously, it is a Switch exclusive. You can't play it anywhere else. And it is $60, so it is a full price commitment. But if you're jonesing for a turn-based RPG, there are definitely worse options on the market.
Or you can just wait for Dragon Quest 3 this week.
Yeah, that's right. That comes out this week, too. That's actually a good point.
That's what I didn't.
So wait till next week, maybe, before you go and pick this up, because maybe Matt and I come back and talk about that game, and we're like, no, you need to buy this instead.
Yeah, well, put it this way: I'm gonna buy and play Dragon Quest. I'm not paying $60 for this.
Yeah,
I like these. For the most part, I like the Mario and Luigi games, although clearly they're not super memorable because I can remember the last 2 of them.
Right.
But like Bowser's Inside Story, I think is very good.
Yeah.
Partners in Time was very good. I like them.
I mean, I like the whole concept of them teaming up. And the bro moves and all that kind of stuff, but
and also there was a period where it was like, oh, if you want like a Mario kind of RPG light, like that's all they were making. But now like we've gotten this and the Thousand Year Door remake and the Mario RPG 7 Stars of whatever,
which isn't all that old either.
Which is also this year.
Yeah.
So like, you got a lot to pick from, and you could probably do better if you go to the one. I'd say one of the other ones looks like more.
Of those 3, I would put this game at the bottom of those 3. So there you go. Yeah. Not that you can go and find the other ones cheap or anything. Although in the next month you might be able to.
Maybe as Black Friday approaches, something like that. But like, yeah, I mean, of those three, I'd probably say Thousand Year Door would be my pick. I know Legend of the Seven Stars or whatever it is, like everyone gushes over that all the time. I don't think that one holds up as well anymore. I think Thousand Year Door is kind of the sweet spot between something like this and something like the Mario RPG.
I think definitely for older players specifically too.
Yeah.
I think they'll resonate more with that game. So anyway, you have plenty of options for turn-based Mario RPGs, and I think we reviewed them all right here on GameFace. Let me see if you guys have any questions before we move on. Sakura Bachan. Is that right? Sakura Bachan? Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome.
Yeah, Sakura Bachan, yeah.
No questions. If you guys have any, get them in right now, because if not, we're going to move on. Link So Good says Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D comes out on Thursday. I'm hyped for that. I think a lot of people are. It looks amazing. Yeah. Vincent says, I actually went to Walmart today and saw Super Mario RPG for $30.
All right.
Okay. That's great.
Good price for that.
That's awesome. Thanks for the heads up, Vincent. Okay. All right. With that, it's time for our sponsorship with the Lands of Hyberian. Welcome to the Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by Sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements, but his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for The Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this! So I actually talked with Stealthy this week. Stealthy is the guy who's making the game, Lands of Hyberian, and he said that he had originally planned on finishing the game this year, but he's been so impressed with the progress that they've made on the game since this sponsorship started with you guys pitching in and helping, that he's now pushed the release of the game into next year because he wants to add a bunch of new features. So, if you thought maybe the project was winding down and maybe it wasn't a good time to jump in, nothing could be further from the truth. So go to Steam, search for The Lands of Hyberian, Hyberian, buy the game for $1, and then get in the community there and start helping Stealthy make this game. I cannot wait till this game is done, and I can look at a game that we kind of crowdfunded to get finished. That is flipping awesome. That is something I would be extremely proud of. So, again...
Take that, Chris Roberts.
Yeah, exactly. So go to Steam, get the game for $1, start working on it with Stealthy, and then hopefully sometime next year it'll all be wrapped up and we can come on this show and talk about how us as a community finished a frickin' video game. Again, it's The Lands of Hyberian. And with that, it's time for our second to last review on today's show. And that is for a game called Slitterhead. Matt, you've been playing this game as well. It is a horror game. I'd call it survival horror, I guess.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a stretch, probably.
It's an action game.
Yeah, it's an action horror game. Made by former Silent Hill developers. Now, obviously, we just reviewed the Silent Hill 2 remake not that long ago here on GameFace. And this is the people who made the original version of that now making a brand
Silent
new
Hill
game.
1 was the guy who did this one, was Silent Hill 1.
Yeah. He actually hasn't been there for a while.
No, not for a very long time.
Yeah. But he is making horror games again, and he did bring some people over from people that worked on
most
other...
notable, it's Akira Yamaoka on the music is the most recognizable.
That's the name you'll recognize, yeah.
And as soon as you play this, you're like, oh yeah, that's him.
The music, yeah.
Very, very noticeable.
Although I also noticed that it plays at very awkward times.
It is very poorly mixed and brought in, and it'll just stop. And
it just stops, or it will play and the music is incredible. Don't get me wrong.
The music's great.
He's one of my favorite game composers.
But it really deserves a better game.
the music will be like pounding, and there's like just two people talking.
Yeah, it has no idea what's happening at any
He
time.
also totally like ripped off the Silent Hill theme with like the guitar and everything.
There's a lot of Silent Hill.
I mean, there's a song in this that is literally like 4 notes changed.
Yeah, but it's his
Yeah,
music.
I mean,
so
it's his music. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But anyway, so it is kind of made by an all-star Konami Silent Hill squad. But it is very, very different, Matt. It is a game about possession where you play kind of as this deity, like disembodied spirit who has figured out that in this town, and the town is called Kowloon, but it's really a mix of Hong Kong and Kowloon. This spirit has figured out that these things called Slitterheads are taking over the human population in Kowloon. And so he starts possessing people to do his bidding, basically. And
because he doesn't remember what he is or who he is.
Yeah.
So
and
you're
you find
sort of piecing your memories together.
Yeah, and you find like these memory orbs throughout the game that give him little patches and pieces of like his past or whatever. And that is part of the mystery. Is like, who is this spirit? Where does he come from? Mixed in with obviously the fact that this whole town has been taken over by these crazy creatures, and you're just trying to stop them physically if you can. And that's kind of the plot. I mean, there's some other twists and turns. And like, how far did you make it, Matt, in this?
Not far.
Oh, really? I played it till I got like 8 hours in or whatever.
I got till I got to the second, what you call it, the people you get. It begins with an R.
Oh, they're called
Oh,
I have it in my notes here somewhere.
Regals.
Rarities.
Rarities.
Yeah. So the playable characters in this are called rarities, which I'm guessing at the end of the game you get an understanding of why they're called that.
Well, they're called that because they're compatible with the possession to a degree that they manifest superpowers when you do it. Most of the people you possess are just regular people, and they walk around and they can do like really basic shit.
Well, they still have like a weird sword that comes out of their hand.
Right, like the first rarity you get, she can make Wolverine claws out of her own blood.
Yeah,
like when you're possessing her, and they can actually fight. Like they're the things they're the characters you're gonna use to actually beat the bosses and do the real shit.
And there's a lot of them. Like I think there was like I had 9 unlocked when I finished when I stopped playing, something like that. And all of them are pretty different. Like he talked about the girl with the claws. Her name is Julie, and she's actually kind of the star of the game. She like all these other rarities come and go throughout the course of the game, but she is kind of like the central figure of the plot.
And you can talk. There's like it's mission based for some reason. And you can talk to the rarities between missions on the map screen kind of thing, and the conversation screens are fucking weird, like superimposed still art, and like there's no actual dialogue. You just hear like the dialogue is sort of mumbling in Mandarin, I think. And then like the spirit you're playing, Night Owl, she names him. When you get his text boxes, there's like whispering English VO from some guy, but it has nothing to do with the text in the box. It's just him be like, what do you think I should say next?
And you have to listen to them.
And you're like, what are you doing? Like,
so you finish a mission, you go back to this like hideout basically, and at first it's just Julie, but eventually it's filled up with all these other rarities as well.
You fill up her apartment with a whole bunch of people for some reason.
And then you have to go to this list of conversation topics, and you have to listen to all these long-winded conversations. And you have to, because that is what will unlock the next mission. So you have to listen, and as you get more rarities, when you come back between a mission, you have to listen to these stories from several of the frickin' rarities before the next mission will unlock.
And it's really boring.
It's so boring. It has like no bearing on things that really matter.
You would never know that the pedigree of this game is what it is.
Oh yeah.
This game sucks.
Oh, I don't think it sucks.
I do. And actually, you know what? Actually, you know what game I kept thinking of, and this comparison.
Geist?
No. This comparison is going to come off as too harsh to people who know what this game is.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking of Illbleed. It's a Dreamcast horror game where you played as you were teenagers basically in a slasher movie, but it was like kind of it was like a serial killer run theme park where each area was a different theme park like theme, and you'd run. But it was like the combat was this like slippery garbage through the whole thing. It was all like weird and over the top, and it really wanted to be edgy and strange, and it was, but it was also just annoying to play. And that's what the combat in this game is. Garbage. Just absolute
bad
trash.
I don't think it's garbage though.
I hate this.
Yeah, I think
And
if you
it's-
played it
and
a
it-
little
and it
longer, you
makes
may have
me-
got a better handle
I'm not
on it.
going to. I stopped. One of the reasons I only got as far as I did is so I could refund it.
Wow.
This game sucks.
See, I don't think it sucks.
I hate.
I
playing
think I like the ideas in it.
I like the. That's what I'm saying. I was gonna say, like it's a like Illbleed. Illbleed's idea is really cool. Like they're doing, but it's just the execution is just not acceptable, and I find that to be true. This game feels like it was made 10 years ago to me.
My final note on this game was Game of the Year 2004.
Yeah, it's so, but like it's got a lot of cool ideas. Like the body horror stuff is really well done. Like in terms of visual design, like the visual design and kind of like the pitch is fantastic.
Yeah.
But what I have to play, I fucking hate it.
Yeah, the combat's clunky. The camera doesn't always follow stuff. You fight. My biggest complaint about this is you literally fight the same enemies over and over. There's these people, which is a human with a weird head, and then there are these other creatures that transform into these almost like praying mantis type creatures,
Well,
and they're all the same.
Yeah,
You fight the same enemies all the entire game.
I love a good leaf disguised praying mantis, but not every night, please. Drifter J, why you gotta make me feel old, Matt? I was in high school when Illbleed came out. I was an adult out of college with a job, so don't give me that shit.
So how it works is for every mission you choose a rarity, which is one of the playable characters, and you
choose two.
Yeah, well then you choose the other one, which is called the companion. So you choose 2 characters for each sortie, and then once you get out in the field, you can pretty much just swap between them whenever you want. Like you can just take control of, you can just do the possession switch or whatever. Where the game gets interesting and creative to me is the possession part. So there's these mission types where you have to chase after enemies, and they happen constantly. And at first you try to chase them, you're a little bit faster than them, so if you're good, you can catch up to them. But what you learn very quickly is instead of trying to run and catch up with them, you just start basically possessing the people that are ahead of them. So you possess them, they run into you, you attack them when they run into them. And it turns into this very interesting mechanic that I've never really experienced in a video game before. Eventually, the chases start happening up in like the skyscrapers, and you have these context-sensitive jump things that you first start learning, but eventually you get like a grapple hook, and that actually, the traversal through like the rooftops and stuff, eventually kind of gets kind of good, believe it or not. But to Matt's point, the combat in this never feels great. No matter how good you get at it, no matter how long you play it, it never feels great. But here's
gotta help you if you gotta fight more than 2 people. It's just such a pain in the ass.
It gets easy. Eventually, you figure out how to manipulate this game. So one of the things about the combat in this is when you switch to another character, you have a damage boost immediately. And so at first you start playing it, you're like, oh, I'm going to fight this monster one-on-one. That's the dumbest thing you can do in this. What you do is you switch to a character, attack twice, switch to another character, attack
Which is
twice.
just the most tedious horse shit. I can't
I
fucking
thought it was
stand
fun and
it's
creative.
not fun. It's just this switch, hit, switch, hit. Just fucking let me. And like, I don't know if it gets better like later on because I obviously didn't play it more than 2 hours. But like it takes forever at least, or maybe it doesn't. You get to things like, okay, I got to get over there. It's like. And then it's like slowly pans the camera to show you where you need to go to do that. And then it pans the camera up when you get there to show you the guy you need to possess. And then it pans over to show the next guy. Like, I get it. They all have yellow lights on their heads. I can figure this one out, boys. Like, it pans up to show you where you can jump to.
But everybody has a yellow light. If you're trying to show you an important person,
no,
they all have yellow
not
lights.
everybody has yellow lights. Some people can't be possessed.
Right. But that's like 1 out of 20
But there's always
or
just
whatever.
one guy on a balcony. And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I got it, game. You don't need to fucking handhold me through the 14th time I'm trying to jump.
That really didn't bother me at all.
I felt like it never let me play.
Interesting. I thought it let me play too much at times.
No, I thought it was way too handholdy.
Interesting.
Like I was annoyed playing this game the whole time.
I mean, I got annoyed at times, but I still enjoyed it. So we mentioned you choose 2 characters, you go out. Now there are skill trees for each character. There's probably 15 things that you can level up for each one.
I think there's 3 sections, and I think
3 levels of each one, and there's probably like 10 or 15 different things for each one.
The one thing, the blood one, the last one only had like 4 for Julie, but then her middle one had like 10.
Yeah, I'm talking about like the first one for just your blood abilities or whatever, not the passive or aggressive ones. You're right, each of those only have like 3 or 4, but your main skills, there's like 10 or 15, and there's 3 levels to each one of them. And like I said, when I quit playing, I had like 8 or 9 different playable characters, and they all are different. Like this guy is a smoking doctor. He literally smokes cigarettes like a chain smokes, but he wears a motorcycle helmet. I don't know. And then eventually you get this old guy.
At least he rides an actual motorcycle.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it.
And then eventually you get this old guy who does like kung fu, but he also does Hadoukens.
Yeah, well.
And he can drop like wrestling drop kicks. So they do a good job.
That guy parries melee attacks with a shotgun. That's very hard to do. I don't know if you've ever tried that. But.
He's the worst playable character in the game, honestly. So Matt was saying the combat's annoying. So eventually there's this deflection thing that you learn where you can block, and then you use the right stick and you tap it in the direction the attacks are coming in. I never got good at that, but so Matt, you were saying you had trouble with this game. I walked through this game. Like if you do the switching, you can beat any enemy very easily. I also discovered
I didn't have a problem with like difficulty. I just thought it was annoying.
Oh, well, I also found an attack in this game that you can use to literally just button mash your way through the whole game, and I'll give it to you. Just hold L2 and just keep spamming square. And there is an attack that you do where you're crouched down and you jump and flip an attack, and I never came across an enemy that could stop it. And I literally walked through the entire game doing the switching stuff and that jump attack. And like literally the hardest bosses in the game, I wouldn't even get hit.
It took me a while to realize that flipping attack was actually hitting them.
Yeah.
Like there's no feedback in the combat in this.
And you also get like 4 special attacks for each one, and this to me is where it's very clunky. So you select the attack with the D-pad and then you perform it with the R2. There's a delay. Like from when you switch and go to do that attack, I can't tell you how many times I got hit just because there was a weird lag between.
You can hit the D-pad and then wait and look at it and watch it move. Like it's crazy slow.
And that did drive me crazy. But again, like once I figured out how to just walk through the game without like having to do any of that stuff, it didn't matter.
Yeah, but then like, what's the point?
Well, then it's the plot, and the end of the game, it's insane. The game starts breaking towards the end, where like the voiceover doesn't work in the cinematics. The cinematics cut off before they're supposed to. Like the game is not 100% baked, I guess is the best way I could put it. I feel like this is like a proof of concept for this studio. This is a brand new studio. This is their first game. I feel like this is a proof of concept. And as far as that is concerned, like, if I was an investor looking to invest in games and I came across this game, I might invest some money in this studio. Because I do feel like if they had a little bit more money and someone gave them enough time to actually polish the game up, I think they have something here. Like, there's no other game like it, no other franchise like it. And I did like the switching and the combat. Like, I thought it made me look at skirmishes in an entirely different way from what I've looked at in most other action games. Oh, there's a sex scene. I forgot about that with nudity.
They try to go real edgy. It's like an HBO show.
Yeah. I don't know if I should be showing this on the stream, actually.
Boobs on GameFace. Here we go.
Oh, well. There it is. Enjoy, guys and girls. So anyway, as Matt pointed out, it is all mission-based. Like, literally, you go with your 2 characters. You got complete a mission. You come back. And then one thing that really bothered me, Matt, is that how it reuses like a lot of the locations and the missions. It'll even say like second run. By the time I got to hour 6, I was returning to the same locations over and over. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same mission that I played already.
You can even tell it's all just alleys.
You're right. Yeah. But I will say this, like, I think they did a pretty good job building the town.
I mean, yeah, it looks like a real place for the most part, but
it's not that big. Like, you figure out very quickly that, like, oh, this world isn't quite as big as I thought it was.
There's, like, early on, there's, like, oh, you can look through the eyes of the Slitterhead and see where they are. And I'm like, how am I supposed to tell where they are? It's like, you look at one sign, you're like, oh, there's only one place where that is. Like,
yeah.
It's like...
That's one of the other mission types.
It actually is, like, weirdly small, considering how big... Because, like, there's all these streets and areas, but you really just cross streets and go into another alley.
Yeah.
Like, you never really wander around the city much.
And to your point about them trying really hard to make this game edgy, they really do. Like, this game is loaded with, like, prostitutes and brothels. There's plenty of smoking, there's plenty of prostitutes, and there's plenty of smoking prostitutes. It is just, like, right here, you're talking to a prostitute and getting ready you're trying to sneak into this brothel, basically, in this mission. And it's like, so this is kind of interesting. Like, you go up and you try to talk to her, she doesn't want anything to do with you. So you go away and you start finding other people, and you come back with, like, this kind of rough-looking dude, and you talk to her, and she gives you the information. And that's kind of how the puzzles and the game works over the long haul. But another one of my big complaints is just the mission variety is completely lacking. There's, like, stealth missions, there's chase missions, there's combat, and then there's the missions that Matt was talking about where you can, like, hit a button and see through the eyes of the Slitterhead. And so you need to track them down. You need to see where they're standing, and you track them down, and then you walk up to them, and you splash them with blood, and it exposes them, and their head comes out, and then you fight them.
Because for some reason, your blood is like acid to them.
Yeah, it makes them reveal themselves as Slitterheads, basically. What else is there to talk about? I feel like I've covered. We already talked about Akira Yamaoka's music, which is great, but not implemented well. Even at 10 hours.
Look at that design, standing on nothing.
Yeah,
that's
yeah. And then
2004, indeed.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what I was just talking about. So now I walk up. I've already tracked down this Slitterhead. I walk up to her, cut myself, splatter blood on her, and then she's exposed as
pocket sand.
And then now it's a chase, and now you have to chase. And these happen all the time. And I talked about those a little bit earlier. But I would just say that, like, even at like 10 hours, this game gets repetitive pretty quickly. I would also say it's probably a little too ambitious for this team as far as the team size and the budget. Yeah, they
definitely did not pull off what they're trying to do.
They bit off more than they could chew, for sure. Which I think maybe the sequel to this might be something special. I do think there's something auspicious about this game. I do think it could become something eventually. It's not perfect now. Look at this game as kind of like an experiment that you're checking out. Here's the problem, though, Matt. The game costs $50.
Yeah.
And that's way too expensive for buying an experiment that you want to fiddle around with. And so, ultimately, I do struggle to recommend this game for purchase. But I don't think it's a horrible game. I do think it shows some promise, ultimately. And we'll see if we get a sequel. We'll see how it sells. Now you're seeing the blocking stuff I was talking about earlier, and it does build up that yellow meter if you block.
Like, again, I don't hate what they're going for with that, but it doesn't feel good.
I agree.
It doesn't work.
It was very hard for me to block. I could hardly ever get the timing right.
I got it. I get it right like 9 times out of 10, but like I also don't understand. Like I block constantly and get the parry constantly, and I only because if you block enough and fill the meter up, you get like a slow-mo like witch time from Bayonetta style thing where you do extra damage and can get like way more hits in. But I could never figure out what actually triggers that. Like, I could just counter, and it never triggered. And sometimes I'd counter once and it would trigger. And I don't know what.
I never figured it out either, honestly, Matt. I didn't either. I was going to ask you if you had.
No,
but you didn't either.
I have no idea. Like, I'd do that. I'd sit there and do that all fucking day. And it just, sometimes it happened and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, I cannot figure out how to activate
it. If there's a pattern to it, I don't know what to get it out of that center line and make it happen. I don't know what it is.
I just stopped blocking after a while. Once I figured out how to spam that attack, I didn't need it anymore. So I just quit doing it. So.
Oh, yeah. And if you get killed in the other people's bodies 3 times, you lose.
Then you do die.
Then you got to restart the checkpoint or whatever.
Yeah, and the checkpoints are pretty generous. It doesn't set you back too far.
Yeah, and again, as long as you're switching back and forth, you're never gonna die.
Yeah. Yep. And again,
because if they die when you're not in them, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And you can run over and revive them.
Well, the other thing, too, about switching constantly is that the AI of the enemies is really dumb.
Yeah, they keep fighting the guy you were already in.
You were. And so they go and attack that guy. That lets you come in from behind and just lay into him or whatever. Here you're seeing the skill points, and some missions you finish, you'll get like 30 skill points for finishing one mission. But eventually, you get to the point where you have like 8 characters that you're leveling up at a time, and you need that many skill points, ultimately. And this is the conversation stuff Matt and I was talking about, where you go to her apartment, and you sit and watch these weird cutscenes, and you have to do this for the next mission to unlock. And another thing I would say, too, is
that is also how I went through those. Just keep going as fast as you can.
I just fast-forwarded through them all. I've listened to the first, 5 of them or whatever.
Yeah, they repeat the same thing over and over again. It's just the same shit.
It is non-linear. Like, generally, there's 3 or 4 missions open at a time, and you can choose to do them in the order that you want. But again, a lot of times, they just completely reuse a prior mission, or they take you to the same place, and now there's a new enemy there that just respawned. So again, I did enjoy a good bit of my time playing this. I do agree with Matt that it has plenty of flaws, but I do think that there's something there that maybe a sequel could be something special. As it is right now, at $50, I struggle to recommend the game, unfortunately. So, and obviously you do as well.
Yeah, at no price would I recommend buying this.
Really? Not even for like $5 or $10?
I think this game sucks.
Wow.
Like, it's one of the worst things I've played all year.
Wow.
I hate it.
I'm trying to think about other bad games I played this year, but we don't play a lot of bad games.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
We don't have to, luckily. Yeah. We've moved past that point of our careers.
I only played this because I knew you were going to play it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we're going to talk about it, so I might as well
I was surprised when you said you played it. This game has totally flown under the radar, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we've seen the trailers, and it's not like we've ignored it or anything.
Yeah, we've covered it for sure.
Yamaoka, I'll give it a shot, but
nah,
no sir, I didn't like it.
Straight from Ren and Stimpy. Let's see if you guys have any questions. Pairing with a gun. What is this? Bloodborne? Yeah. Alpha Protocol and Stuntman with Wanted Dead put together. Yeah, I can see some Alpha Protocol in that, actually.
There's a lot of Wanted Dead in there.
Yeah.
Just in terms of being a crappy game that nobody should bother with.
Link So Good says, this game is janky. Reminds me of a PS2 game. Thus my Game of the Year 2004 comment.
It feels very... Like, there's things in it that you couldn't do before this gen, probably. But it feels old. Mm-hmm. Like, the way things interact with it, like, the inverse kinematics feel ancient. Like nobody feels attached to the ground. Nobody like a couple times like I ran into the same character model like 4 times in a row in the
other thing we should say too, you probably saw it in the B-roll, the character models look terrible.
Awful. Just
like the city looks fine.
The city looks pretty good.
But
the
monsters character
look
models,
good.
they look like they're made out of like have you seen that Liberty commercial that's on the air right now where the guy's standing next to his wax model and it starts to melt in the sun?
Yeah,
like the characters in this look like that. Like their wax is starting to melt.
It looks like everybody. It's like everyone's made of cake.
Yeah,
it's like everyone. Is it cake? Yes, they are all cake. that is the surprise. Yeah. And it's like it's weird because like that praying mantis looks great.
Yeah,
it's like.
But you fight that.
You fight that over and over.
The whole way through the game. It looks great the first 3 times, and after that, it's like okay.
Like there's an impressive like array of people, like they're and they all.
But they all look awful.
Well, they all look awful in terms of tech, but they also all look awful because they're all like weird slobs.
Yeah.
Like at one point,
see, I kind of like that too. Like I like that you're just playing as like this cab driver, like attacking this crazy monster.
At one point, I was fighting like a boss at one point, and I think everyone on my team except Julie was like just this fat shirtless guy that had clearly been pulled off a balcony, like smoking somewhere.
I kind of like that part of it though.
Like this again, like I said, a lot of the concept here is good.
Yeah,
like
the execution,
but the execution is just awful.
Yeah. Vincent says, is it time to give up on spiritual successors? For every Bloodstain, we get a dozen Slitterheads and Callisto Protocols. Yeah, I'm not going to give up, though. I still will hold out hope that some of them might be good.
Some of them, but he's talking about successors from their creators.
Like, I mean, this is a spiritual successor to Silent Hill,
You made something good 20 years ago, doesn't mean I got to care about what you're making now.
Yeah,
you know?
I can get that part of it, yeah. JM Rain says, I'm excited to try it still. Okay. And JM Rain, knowing you should try it. Like, I think that you will enjoy parts of it much like I did. Okay. I don't see any other questions, so we will move on to our last review of episode 411. And I think we have enough time if we keep it snappy.
There's not a whole lot to say about
we're going to review Empire of the Ants. I played the first 30 minutes to record footage of this, and that's it.
You're probably pretty good then.
Oh, really? It doesn't change
anything? There's not a whole lot beyond. I mean, you get new units, but like you've seen the game.
Yeah. It is a real-time strategy game where you play as ants. And I'll say this, the graphics in this game
gorgeous. It is.
Wow.
If you don't like insects, don't touch this one.
Oh my god. It'll give you the creepy crawlies for sure.
But I like ants. I think ants are kind of cute.
Interesting.
My mom hates them. Like, we had ants in the house all the time, but I was always fascinated by them, so this is fun. So this is actually based on a book, a novel called Empire of the Ants, a French novel. You play a red wood ant, native to the Paris region. And I don't know how far this goes in the book. It's a parallel story about an ant in the colony and a guy who lives in a apartment building, a house, and people who go down in the basement of the house keep disappearing, and the ants are investigating some weird scent and pheromone thing in the area, and they both kind of converge, and it turns out there's basically like a hyper intelligent, murderous super ant colony in the basement, and they have to team up to fight it. It's a trilogy.
Wow.
I don't know how far this gets into that.
It sounds like Watership Down a little bit.
It has been compared to Watership Down. Yeah. But in the game, you play a worker. It seems to be a I don't know if she's a worker ant, but she's definitely because she's a little in charge of some shit. She's a middle manager.
Yeah.
103,683rd is her name. Yeah. Because she's the 103,683rd ant in the colony. Early on, the first ant you talk to is like number 357. It's like, damn. Triple digits.
Seniority.
Yeah. But yeah, so the colony is just waking up after the winter hibernation, and you're all going out into the environment here to find food. And the first...
That's pretty much all ants do.
Yeah, that's what everything does.
Yeah.
So you can tell it's you because she has the scars on her abdomen. Clearly, she's seen some shit. And the first section is like the tutorial is just like sending you out, running around, and identifying things and hopping around. And like the way you play this is you have real-time control over the ant. You run around like
360 degrees.
Yeah.
Like you can land on the back of a leaf, like you're seeing right here, and you have to run on the back side and the front side of the leaf. Yeah,
and it actually works.
It kind of does.
Well.
Yeah.
Like they nail like the. You want to talk about contrast? Slitterhead. Nobody can agree where their feet are.
Right.
In these things, these ants move exactly like ants.
They really do.
And they go over things and over bumps and weird divots in the terrain exactly like a real ant.
It
does.
really
it's
is.
Really impressive.
It's stunning, kind of. Honestly.
And there's moments where you're like, I can't believe I just navigated that properly, even though she went under the thing up on top of it, and then I had to jump off onto another leaf and landed sideways and crawled up like they actually fucking figured this out.
Just watch this B-roll. Yeah. You can run.
You're controlling this with I think you're using a controller. I use the keyboard and mouse.
Oh, you did?
Because it actually works better.
Wow, I would never dream that would be the case.
Where you're rotating the camera with the mouse and you're controlling her with the WASD keys. And it's really good.
Interesting.
Like, it really works.
I never would have thought that.
You can hold the space bar and power up your jump. And you can jump just about anywhere. You can't die from falling because you're an ant.
Yeah.
And
you'll never reach terminal velocity.
And it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to end up in the water. It's very simple.
Well, you can land in the water.
But you get hurt.
You have to be there. You have to get off the water pretty quickly or you'll drown. Yeah.
So this is kind of the intro to that. And then past this, you become basically the commander of a bunch of Pikmin units.
This game does remind me a good bit of Pikmin, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the scale, the size, even
the art, the graphics.
Art a little bit.
Because Pikmin has that starkly realistic
super realistic
look.
Yeah, other than the characters,
Yeah.
And so, like, you get a bunch of units. So, like, you start with, like, a warrior unit and, whoa, look out. You get a warrior unit and
That's me learning.
Ants breathe through their sides. You don't want to do that. You start out with
Ashes in the Hourglass brings up deadly creatures.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, it's not like that.
It's got that vibe
because this is the only real level that has this sort of platforming, moving around and stuff, and you can't attack. Mm-hmm. But you get in the next one, you basically get next level and further, you get access to units you can command. And so basically, you kind of walk around like a little commandant. Yeah.
Good one.
And like you kind of walk around and you hold the right mouse button, and she sort of rears up and creates like a targeting thing, and you point where you want it, and you have to select your unit, like a warrior. You start with warriors and gunners, and you get workers and you get a bunch of different types of units you can send out, and you click where you want them to go, and they go there. And like it's pretty simple, sort of rock paper scissors stuff. Like the warriors are your melee units, and the gunners you hold them back. They're little green ants, and they shoot acid, at which real ants can't really do. But like it's fun. You know, everything's treated like a military operation, a mission. Like everyone talks about like we must for the colony kind of thing. It's very propaganda-y, which is very appropriate for ants. And basically, you go around. You run around and ID useful items like with scent things, and you send your workers to go pick them up, and they have to defend the workers by sending intercepting termites and other ants and fire beetles and a bunch of other stuff. And like it's kind of like Slitterhead. There's nothing else like this.
Yeah, there really isn't.
It's a little simple, and it's a little. Like if you've played Pikmin, I feel like you might be a little bored by this because it's so rudimentary.
Yeah.
And it is very much like Slitterhead. It is also, do a little mission. The mission's over before you really know it, and then you go back and you got to go get another mission you don't get to do really much in the colony. Like I was a little disappointed you don't get to go inside the nest and.
Well, there's certain points where you like establish like a new ant.
You establish like outposts.
Yeah.
It's a weird system. You interact with the little outpost you made, and it put a radial map around the whole of the nest to go out and like. Select foragers or soldiers or defense.
Yeah, you can choose a unit.
You pick what you want to build up around that one nest. To like, you can add like barriers or basically turrets, so like little ants that sit there and just shoot acid at things. You can upgrade all your units. So and that's an automatic upgrade, which is pretty cool. Like you will actually upgrade your existing warriors to veterans or whatever. they become more effective, and you can go out and explore more and defend yourself against more termites, basically. And it is it's a real-time strategy game that looks almost photoreal at times, that is entirely told from the perspective of an ant colony.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's just wow. Okay, like it's not. It's sort of like Slitterhead, where it's like they're not creating a Game of the Year candidate here, but I guarantee you it's like nothing else you've played this year.
Here's what
except maybe the last one, which they actually did make a version of this before.
I didn't
like
know
in
that.
the early 2000s. I don't think it came out here. I think it was only in France. But the same Microids was also the publisher on it back in like 2002 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's the books from like the mid-90s or mid-80s, I think.
Here's my question.
Early 90s.
So I only played 30, 40 minutes of this to get the B-roll. The reviews for this have just annihilated it.
Why? Hated it. I don't know.
Really?
I guess because it's so simple.
Yeah.
Like it
is even more simple than Pikmin.
Yeah, there is not much to. I mean, and it's not like so far. I'm not super far into it, but like I probably not more than two. I'm past the refund mark. So that you know that I made a choice.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm going to keep the ant thing. That's fine. But like, part of it's just because it looks so good.
Yeah.
Like look at that. It feels like you're running around. There's a big soccer ball. Like you got to run around the soccer ball and find all the scent markers on it and stuff.
I want to get to some of the B-roll that shows off the actual
that's where
units.
There's like pheromones that like tell you, that's how you get the flashbacks. It's like the audio logs for this game.
It's an ant.
And there's a whole like story behind like early people who like the other previous ants who foraged before, and you're looking for like the ultimate goal seems to be to migrate the anthill somewhere where there's no winter. Like that's their myth, is like a place where there's no winter.
Right. Their dream.
And they're all kind of like, it's fun because like it's like
they have to hibernate,
because there's like intel reports, and they're like spiders have been spotted over by there, but we haven't seen them before. We are usually the first out of hibernation, but the termites are 2 days ahead of us, and we can't let them fall behind. And it's like it's a conceit that actually really works for an ant thing.
Yeah.
It's like they probably would be very over serious.
Yeah.
And they all call each other sister, and like there's
Yeah.
a big comradeship of like. Of like ant sisterhood happening, because they're all girls.
Yeah.
I have no drones are shown. I'm hoping some drone ants show up and we get to be horrible to them, because drones are useless. Drones go on the mating flight and then just drop dead. It's fun. It's weird. But there's not a lot of meat to it. So I mean, maybe it gets hard as nails and you get some really advanced units later on. But so far, it's just been. Move your basic warriors here, move your gunners here.
Its reviews have been like 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10.
Like IGN gave it like a 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah. Really
those are very harsh to me. Like, this is not nearly
How
that
much
bad.
was it, actually? Did it cost?
I don't
I thought I looked it up.
It wasn't full price.
Didn't write it down.
I want to say it was 40.
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
I thought I had written it down, but maybe not. My notes are all jacked up today anyway.
If it was full price, I don't think I would have.
Yeah, I would. Having only played 30 or 40 minutes of it, I would not.
IGN gave it a 3.
And the multiplayer a 6. They reviewed the multiplayer separately for this game.
I didn't play the multiplayer. 40. It's $40.
$40. That seems a little steep.
So it's a little bit steep for what it. But again, if you have, I think on PC, if you can run it with everything on, it's pretty good looking.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's no denying that at all. I mean, that's definitely the game's best trait, the visuals.
And like I think the novelty of it sustains it longer than it would if it was just like, I don't know, like
a bunch of orcs or whatever.
A bunch of orcs or like a resurrection of like army men or something. I would not have stuck with it as long as I did, because that's not as interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a very unique concept,
but,
for sure.
The novelty of this carries it a little bit. Apparently not if you're a professional reviewer. Working at a major outlet, but no, I don't think it was as bad as all that. I mean, you probably could stand to wait for a sale, and I
do wonder if you get to like hour 12 or something.
I don't know how long this is really. It is, the missions are too short.
Yeah,
like it happens, but just as you kind of get in a groove, it's over, and then you gotta start over in the next mission again. There's not a lot of continuity so far between those things. Like, it would be a little more satisfying if like. I think if it wasn't so discrete packaging, you know what I mean? Like, if the missions weren't all self-contained maps, and it was more like
Here's an open world.
Here you are in the colony, and
Yeah.
you got to spread out from here. And I mean, more like Pikmin.
Yeah, I mean,
frankly.
that would be the sequel, would be my guess.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But like that kind of thing where like you have to like move, even if you're fast traveling, but the idea that everything feels very connected to where you are, if you had more of a sense of place of where you are, because you never get a sense of sort of how far anything is, except in the early missions where like you have to direct your tutorial ants kind of back to your main colony, which has like a funny fantasy name. It's like not Barad-dûr, that's Lord of the Rings, but like the ants have their own language and they have their own like tales and their own places and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Here's what we're talking about,
cool.
where you create the hill
Yeah.
and you can pick the units that come out of the hill. Obviously, you need to be strategic with that,
Yeah.
depending on the enemy you're
I will
facing.
say I do think it plays way better with a mouse and keyboard. I
Never would have dreamed that.
I never do that. I never play with mouse and keyboard usually, but playing the controller was just sort of off, so I switched to try it, and I thought it worked way better that way.
Yeah. Here you can see like a war.
Yeah, the number of things on the screen is really impressive.
Oh yeah, and when you get in close, like they all look pretty good.
If you look, like your soldier ants will grab and kill things and just toss them.
Yeah, they
like,
throw them into the air. It's
awesome.
awesome.
It's very entertaining.
You can see them flying. It's freaking great. I mean, this is pretty entertaining just to watch. Like I mean, I'm kind of surprised these reviews are so harsh, but I do wonder if like
Silk
later
Snake,
in the game.
yes, Silk Snake, there are spiders.
Yeah.
You do fight spiders.
Yeah, of course you have to.
So if you're afraid of spiders, maybe not.
Well, actually, it might be good because you can kill the spider and feel good about yourself.
People are irrational about the thing, about the spider
My
thing.
wife is crazy, scared of spiders. I just let them crawl on me, and it freaks her out. I'm like, they are our friends. They kill all the other bad insects.
I was the other day. Luna was crying and running in circles near her food dishes, and I'm like, "What is wrong with?" So I went over, and there's a spider had built a web, like near, like between the plug, like the power, like the power brick on the wall and the wall. And it was like hanging above her food dish. And I'm like, "Oh, you little coward!" So I mean, at least she's not eating them. I guess.
Yeah.
So I went and I caught it and I brought it into my the bathroom in my office and said, "Eat some silverfish, please." And so now that's where he lives.
Yeah, if I find spiders, I'd never kill them. I just put them out on her deck or whatever. Yeah.
I will kill a brown recluse.
Well, yeah, because it could kill you.
Yeah, or more likely it would kill the cats.
Right. Yeah.
But we've had,
in fact, it probably won't kill you. It'll just make you wish you were dead.
Yeah, that'd
make you
good.
really sick.
And we have brown widows everywhere here,
which are better than the black ones.
Yes, they are not. Can't actually. Their venom is just as bad, but they can't inject as much.
Right. They're not strong enough.
They are, however, very aggressive, and they have mostly wiped out the black widow population in Southern California. Because there used to
Can't say I'm complaining, but
well, they're an invasive species, so it's not good for the ecology.
Which ones are invasive?
Brown widows.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They are not native to here.
Interesting.
But they thrive here. And at one point, the brown widow eggs, you can tell because they're the spiky ones. Mm-hmm. You see them around.
Yeah.
At one point, there were at least 40 little brown widow egg sacs everywhere in my backyard and around, and I'm like, okay, we got to do something.
Yeah.
About this. Because they're beautiful, but there's too many, and I'd been bitten by a couple taking the trash out because they hide under the trash can lids. So I have exterminators who come and they spray chrysanthemum oil around, and it keeps them away, and it keeps them away.
Being toxic.
But it doesn't keep like the big garden orb weavers away, so I keep them. I name those.
Awesome.
I get 2 or 3 every year that build huge webs the size of the door.
Oh.
And
I have a squirrel who comes to our deck every day.
Oh, we got a squirrel.
Name's Bucky. We feed him, and that was a mistake.
I got a possum that comes around every night.
It's funny. You think about L.A., you're like, they're probably like sitting there like, how Matt and Shane talk about wildlife in Los Angeles?
There's like animals live everywhere.
They do. Yeah, they really do. Yep. All right, well, there you go. That is Empire of the Ants. You would say not for $40?
I mean, I don't regret it for $40, but like, I'm kind of into the subject already. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're just sort of curious about this weird ass thing, I would definitely wait for a Steam sale. At least 30. I'd say 30. I'd be okay with 30.
Okay. All right. Well, there's just one thing left.
Or maybe just buy the book and read that.
Yeah. Well, there's just one thing left to do, and I totally blew it because I played the intro a minute ago, but it's time for... That's right. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt. Matt is on an absolute tear. Somebody did finally win last week, but you've won 4 of the last 6, I think it is.
I guess.
Something like that, or 3 of the last 5, or something like that. He is on a run. So you guys better...
Running 2.
You guys better mind your P's and Q's. A couple of things before we get going. You can only win once every calendar year. We're almost done with 2024, which blows my freaking mind. But anyway, if you've already won this year, don't play because you can't win twice. The other thing is that we put the chat into slow mode, so don't spam the chat with a bunch of random game titles because you're going to lose. And the last thing is, play PC games. You need to play them, or you need to know somebody who plays PC games because we give a free PC game out to the winner of this game. Although, I'll say this, we have some codes for December around the holidays that are not PC games and are some pretty high-profile games that you guys are going to be excited for. So, doing a little bit of Santa here on GameFace for December, but typically we give an indie PC game as a prize to the winner. So make sure that you play PC games or you know somebody that does. I don't want to pay, and I pay this out of my own pocket, so I don't want to pay for a game that I'm going to give to you and it's just going to sit there and not do anything. So if you're not interested in winning a free PC game, please do not play. Looking at the images today, I think this might be a tough one. I think this might make it to the 4th image. We'll see, but that's my guess right now. Are you ready, Matt? Mm-hmm. Are you guys ready to play Name That Game? Here we go. The first image for Name That Game in 3, 2, 1, go. If anybody gets it from that, I'll give you 2 games. Blue Dragon, no, but that's a good guess. Yeah. You guys always have good guesses. It's really crazy. I mean, yeah, I can see where you think that was Blue Dragon. Flower, no. Although, it doesn't look like flower, but more literally. Metal Gear Solid 3, no. Emperor Dread Body Harvest, no. Yakov thought I was throwing the curveball if we talked about MGS3 earlier. Eternal Sonata, no. Interesting pick, though. Phantasy Star Online Dreamcast, no, Drifter J. But you know I love that game. And someday, it will be in Name That Game. Any other guesses? Eternal Sonata. Boy, you really pulled that one out of the ether too quick, Capri.
Mark of Cree.
No, not Mark of Cree. Zelda Breath of the Wild, no. Although I think the ground looks a little better in Breath of the Wild.
This looks like PS2 era to me.
It's not Breath of the Wild. Although, let's be fair, like there are some Switch games that are around, they're around that era. All right, going once, going twice. Okay, let's move on to image 2 in 3, 2, 1, go. Mm-hmm. Pharaoh Doll says I could play Eternal Sonata. I love that game. My 360 red ringed in the middle. That sucks. World of Warcraft, no. Borderlands 3, no. Xenoblade Chronicles 1, no. Any other guesses? Very arty screenshot.
It does look familiar.
Voodoo Vince, no, but that's too quick, Capri. You're really pulling them out, man. Pokemon Sword and Shield, no. Voodoo Vince, no, too quick, Capri, but you're guessing some really awesome games. Any other guesses on the second image?
Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is a good guess.
Yeah. But that's not it. Going once, Star Ocean, the one on PS3. No Drifter J. Going once. Going twice. Okay, here we go to image 3. In 3, 2, 1, go. You can get it from this. You can definitely get it from this. Fourth one.
Tale of the Sun.
No.
That weird caveman game
on
PS1.
It. Any guesses on this one? Japanese god game. No. Not even any guesses on this one. I thought this might give it away. Oh, we have the winner, Emperor Dread. It is Spore. Congratulations. Good job, man. It wasn't Body Harvest, but somehow he still got it.
I remember Spore looking better than that.
So now I'm going to pick Body Harvest for next week, so you can't win when we have Body Harvest. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Good job, Emperor Dread. It is indeed Spore. Here is the 4th screenshot. That one would have given it
Yeah.
away. And then here's the fifth one. And that one definitely would have given it away too. Is it a PS1 game? No, I don't think Spore ever came out for PS1.
No.
I'm not 100% sure actually though.
No, that was later than that.
Was it?
Spore was like 2006, 2007.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that old. I mean, I thought it came out around 2004 or something. I could be wrong. But it seemed earlier than that, than 2007.
I'm trying to remember if I played it here or not.
Yeah, I think it was like
2008.
Was it 2008? Wow. I thought for sure it was like almost around when I was at GameSpot in the really
I think that's
early
just
aughts.
when they announced it.
I think you're probably right.
It took forever.
Yeah, it did take forever. I still have Spore. I have like a jewel case PC version
Yeah,
of Spore
so do
still.
I.
Yeah. All right.
My niece played it for a while.
Oh, really?
She liked it.
She liked it?
Yeah.
How old was she when she played it?
She was like 8 or
9?
9, I want to say.
Okay.
Pretty
I
young.
could see where that would hit with them for sure.
Yeah.
That's the point where everyone thinks they're going to be a zoologist. At least I did. I probably should have. I think your career will last longer as a zoologist than doing a lot of other things. All right, well, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 411. Get the info. We just gave it to you. Thank you to everybody who showed up live, as always. You guys make the show better. We appreciate it. Congratulations to our winner, Emperor Dread, of Name That Game. Just a couple things before we go. As always, I like to remind you guys we are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. Please go there and give us a pledge. If you've never pledged before, maybe consider just doing it for December as like a Christmas gift or whatever. Or you could go to donate.sifted.net and you can give us whatever you want. If you're someone on YouTube who doesn't want to deal with YouTube's subscription system, or you don't want to deal with Patreon, but you want to thank us for the year of content, go to donate.sifted.net and you can give us whatever you want. Literally just type in the amount, pay with a credit card or PayPal. You can do it in 180 countries or something like that. That would be awesome with the holidays coming up. If you want to buy us a beer or a coffee or anything like that, we'd really appreciate it. We'll be back next Tuesday. Are we going to have Flight Simulator 2024? Is that for next week's show?
I don't know.
I think there's a couple pretty big games coming here at the end of the month that we still have to tackle. So
I don't remember when that is.
yeah, but as you can see, we are in the game review season. We have 3-4 games pretty much in every episode of GameFace, and that probably is going to continue until we get to the second week of December, where the games will be lighter, but also then we'll start doing our end of the year, game of the year stuff and all that kind of stuff. We'll wrap up our fantasy league, and that will that be wrapped up when Flight Simulator comes out? Will all the games have been out at that point and reviewed?
I think so, yeah.
So we'll know when that game comes out, like where it's going to sit. So it's close, by the way. Matt and I are like a shave close. Like it could go either direction right now, and I think it does all hinge.
I don't think so. I think you've got it pretty handily.
How?
Because my stuff I added up the totals.
I mean, Star Wars hurt for sure.
I added up the totals at one point, and basically, if your stuff got more than an average of like 83, your last 2 or 3 games, like you were ahead by like a good margin.
Really interesting. Well, we'll see when it all shakes out. Flight Sim is on the 19th, so it'll be that day. Do you guys want us to review Tetris Forever, the playable documentary, Tetris documentary? Let us know in the comments below. But a big thanks to you guys showing up. We're here every Tuesday at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. As you know, the show lasts around 3 hours. Thanks to everybody who stuck around for the entire time. We appreciate it very much. Again, go to patreon.com/Sifted and help us if you can. If you can't do that, you can help us out with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below. I'll just tell you, like our YouTube crew, if all you guys or even half of you guys did Twitch Prime, our financial situation would be so much better. And it's free and it's easy. Please do it. Just go down below. Once you hook it up the first time, it literally takes 3 seconds to keep resubscribing to our channel, and you can ensure that GameFace survives and keeps going. As I mentioned at the early part of the show, we have an open spot right now for sponsorships. If you're interested, go to sponsorships@sifted.net, send us an email, and we'll start coordinating and try to make that stuff happen. We'd appreciate it very much. So, everybody, have yourselves a great week filled with great games. GameFace is up and out.